Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe...
Well, nobody else could make a decision but me because I was the president, and the final decision comes to the president.
You know, it's easy enough for a Monday morning quarterback to say what the coach should have done after the game's over. But when the decision is up before you, and on my desk I have a motto which says the buck stops here, the decision has to be made.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yep.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think you've been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and casting specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you retired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And I'm the one who will not raise taxes. My opponent now says he'll raise them as a last resort or a third resort. But when a politician talks like that, you know that's one resort he'll be checking into. And my opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no. And they'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips. No new taxes.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
You crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Shut your mouth, because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did.
Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical. Hold it.
Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by. What are you doing?
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life tour. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
Sarcastic.
That would.
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask
Peter,
one other
go ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's
Mr.
enough.
President, I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question, which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Look at you.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your.
I ain't talking politics, I'm talking life.
I ain't talking politics, I'm talking life.
All right, here we go. Here we go again. This time it's a special edition of TFP on a Wednesday. I am Vance, and I'm here with the world's most dangerous political panel, and we're doing it for episode 53. This is Walz versus Vance, 2024 Vice Presidential Debate. On the panel with me, I got Ricardo. What's going on, Ricardo? Oh, hold on. Ricardo got off. Hold on 1 second. Okay, Ricardo, can you hear me? Hello? Ricardo. MD, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I guess something must be wrong with Ricardo's audio. Well, while we wait for Ricardo, we'll go to the political prophet amongst men, MD20. What's going on, MD?
Peace, what's going on? What's happening?
So we're here to do the vice presidential debate. I don't know if you did a Thought Box Live or not, because I fell asleep.
I was driving.
Yeah, I fell asleep. After the debate, I was so tired. I just fell asleep. Yeah. So, did you watch the whole debate?
Yeah, I rewatched it this morning. I mean, pretty much what I expected. I didn't, a lot of people are going around saying that Wall should have, attacked more. I think for the type of personality that he has, he did exactly what I expected him to do. Do I wish he would have pondered more of the reality of the answers that Vance was giving? Yeah. But from a personality standpoint, he did just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're watching it, you just get the sense that it's a very much different debate than we've seen as far as like the last few debates over the last few years with Trump and Hillary, Trump and Biden, Trump and Harris. Like there's always some wild stuff going on. But this was more, I would say, more policy driven, a more respectable conversation between two people. There was no like trash, no digging through the trash on this one. It was more, besides like a couple moments, it really was more straightforward, like how it would have been like in the 80s or the 70s and whatnot.
Right. Well,
So
I'll disagree with this point. There was a lot of trash, but the trash was scattered with potpourri. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Vance was a slimy devil. He was slimy throughout the whole night with a lot of the answers that he was given, especially from the moderators. Everything that the moderators asked him, he found a way to slime out of answering the question. Every single one.
Yeah.
He basically did exactly what Trump does, just did it in a very Fox-like way. Let's put it that way. So it was plenty of trash. He just acquiesced more politely.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder if that was something he practiced coming into it. Like, how is he going to maneuver out of these particular, because he's going to have to answer January 6th. He's going to have to answer abortion. He's going to have to answer a lot of things that, they just don't have the best policies and viewpoints on. So, he probably came in with that tactic in his mind.
Well, he never answered any of it. So, they had the playbook set. But like I said, J.D. Vance he's more Fox-like in going around the question. And even to a certain point, now this is where I give J.D. Vance credit. He answered a lot of the questions so slick that he got, for a lack of a better term, Walz to agree with a lot of stuff that he was saying. That's how slick he was.
Yeah. They, from both, I mean, J.D. Vance was agreeing with a lot of what Walz was saying, and there were times Walz was agreeing a lot with what J.D. Vance was saying. I guess that's where the politeness came into. It wasn't like just all out just rumble, But
it was a slick tactic.
Yeah, slick, I mean, even with Paul Ryan and Joe Biden, when they had their debate at the vice president debate, it's like the same thing. It wasn't really as explosive as the main event presidential debate.
Right.
So we got the uppity Negro on the panel. What's going on, Ricardo?
What to do, yo? Did have some technical difficulties, but
We were just briefly just talking about the debate. What's your just initial thoughts? Real quick thoughts on what you thought of the debate.
for the lack of term, it was a snooze fest. It was very even I have to admit I fell asleep during watching it, and that's not even like me to fall asleep watching any debates. But it was very, oh, I agree, and oh, I think you would agree, and oh, I'm gonna be cordial. But that goes to show you that we've such a toxicity, a political toxicity, to the extent that Trump has made things so absurd that when we see civility at its finest moments, we're like, that was kind of blah and boring and just meh. But it needed to be like that because the whole point or the premise of the whole debate was, them showcasing their point of views to be in agreement with the people that they're running for. Either it was for Harris or it was for Trump. And they both did an excellent job of doing that. I will say, to MD's point, Vance is one slick motherfucker, if I could say that out loud. He did a lot of stuff that was sneaky, underhanded, and if you weren't too smart to catch up, remember, we all thought he was silly and weird because that's what Walz gave him that moniker, which was like he was a very weird man. But last night he brought out personality, which was one of those things where it kind of threw a lot of people off, where we're like, oh, I didn't know he was like that. He's always been like that. He's like a smooth operator in a sense, where he was able to do certain things and come across like, he was a fine, dandy, principled man. He's really far from it. But I must commend them both. With a few gaffes here and there, I thought, Walz could have handled the China question a little bit better, but that was a gaffe. And the other one was, in agreement with the shooter. That was a kind of weird moment, but it's like an old man kind of weird moment. It's like it's reminiscent of how Biden behaved a little bit. But other than that, it wasn't off-colored. It wasn't a screaming match. It wasn't. I expected a little bit more fact-checking coming from CBS end. They didn't really do that much, other than keep them, as moderators, keep them in line in terms of the timing. But could have been a little bit better. But all in all, it was a snooze fest. I'm sorry. It was kind of like blah, boring, and just meh. I don't think it's going to move the needle that much, but that's just me. But it was good seeing civility back at its finest hour.
Yeah, a lot of people probably was tuning in to see the Jerry Springer show, and they got Dead Poet Society. It was not that ratchet. Let's put it that way. And I guess it has a lot to do with Donald Trump not being involved. So let's take a look here at just a quick highlights of the debate from last night. Also on this show, we're gonna look at some fact checks as well from the debate, and then we have to talk about what's going on with the unions and the strike. It's got to be talked about tonight. So, and of course, we got our lame duck number 58. So let's start it up now. Let's go ahead and take a look here at some highlights, some brief highlights of this vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz.
Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim Walz and Ohio's Republican Senator J.D. Vance tonight meeting for the first time.
First of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get.
Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax, and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in.
We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies.
This is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this. And Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield.
The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does. Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check. And since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
But as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric.
These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me, what was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Well, I think all the parents watching tonight, this is your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old, and he witnessed a shooting at a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough when we know there are things that worked.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting, and I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's doing okay. So. Christ have mercy.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that.
We have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
In the first and only vice presidential debate between Governor Tim Walz and Senator J.D. Vance, both men asked if they would support a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran, after Iran launched the largest ever ballistic missile attack on Israel yesterday.
And look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys.
Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental. And ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
On abortion rights, Walz accusing the Trump campaign of planning to create a registry of pregnancies.
It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't.
On the issue of immigration, Vance pressed on Trump's plan for mass deportations.
I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding.
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it.
The candidates sparring over the results of the 2020 election.
I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship.
Walz was asked to clarify his claim that he was at Tiananmen Square during the deadly protests in 1989 when he was actually there months later. Walz says he misspoke, saying he's a knucklehead at times. Perry Russom, ABC News, Washington.
All right, there we go. Just some highlights from last night's vice presidential debate. So one of the things that jump out at me is how, Walz asked about did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? And immediately Vance says, we don't want to talk about the past. We want to move forward. And then goes right into, in 2020, Kamala Harris is censoring people's speech. But I thought that was ridiculous. But MD, what did you take away from some of the highlights from last night, and anything stood out to you?
Yeah, that exact point in the debate to me should have been a kill shot. And again, from a personality aspect, Walz did incredibly well. The way Kamala Harris harped on points is not the same way I expect Walz to harp on points. But yet, still, the points need to be harped on to exude the utter stupidity of the points being led in the campaign of Trump and Vance. That should have been the kill shot. When they brought up January 6th and the denial of the election results, Walz should have killed him right there. And for him to go all the way around in a circle, not answering the question, to talk about censorship on social media, that lets you know how baffling the campaign rhetoric coming out of the Trump Vance camp is. And Walz said it quite clear that, hey, I don't own Facebook. I think that was a great answer to get back to what Walz was talking about, but I think he should have killed him right there. Another point, talking about the whole Tiananmen Square thing, like, that's inconsequential to me. Like, really, who gives a damn? You lied about, so what impact does that have on any type of policy implementation that Walz has? So he answered that. He said, hey, look, I ain't necessarily saying I lied, but I misspoke. I can be a knucklehead. Hey, cool with me. I don't give a damn what you did in the 80s anyway. What they got to do with now? So, all the things that they were trying to trap Walz with, like, it didn't work. And it shouldn't have worked. Because it's inconsequential to what the focus is now dealing with the election. On the other hand, the stuff that they brought up with Vance was very consequential to his ideology and what he feels about what's current now, dealing with the stuff that he said about Trump back in 2016 and for the most part 2020. It was a specific point where he made the statement talking about economic populism. That was another point Walz should have harped on. Economic populism is not a Republican value within their system. What are we talking about in terms of economic populism? We're talking about a very America first, if you will, type principle. Some maybe argue it's very liberal, which it is, but liberal can mean different things depending on how you're looking at it. That should have been harped on. Economic populism and individualism, dare I say the word, are vastly different. But in the essence of how we view Republican ideology, individualism would be more Republican leaning. I get it. I mean, it's not the totality of what it means, but I get it for the sake of the argument. That was another issue. The abortion issue should have been where the body blows happened. And for the most part, it did, because he brought up specific instances of direct impact of what abortion in its current state is doing right now. Vance didn't have any answer for it. As a matter of fact, he said one of the dumbest things of the whole night when they asked him, did he want to respond? He said, hell. He basically said, hey, niggas die every day, B. That's basically what he said. He said a lot of people shouldn't be dying for whatever. Like, what the hell kind of answer is that? Because he had no answer. He had no answer to what was being said about a current abortion policy, because everybody knows where you guys stand. You can try to lie and say, Trump will never sign on to a national board. You can say whatever you want. Populism, because again, going back to that word, populism is profound in what it means. Meaning, if you are a figure within a political space, your job is to set the needs and the goals of the populace or the people. The people that you attract want a national abortion ban. So, just using logic, Van Cat. I mean, we got to use logic. If we're using logic, whatever the bag of maniacs want you to do, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do it.
Yep.
The bag of maniacs want you to ban abortion nationwide. So much so that your think tank has written a whole manifesto in regards to pushing it forward through a political machine. Great job by Walz by touting all of that in the debate last night, which Vance didn't have any answer for. All he could do was lie and deny it. So again, so many points that were made in regards to what's what. Oh, no, one more point, and then I'll be done. Another point that should have been harped on when he was talking about the tariffs. Again, how stupid are we as a people thinking that everything can be solved? All our economic woes can be solved by just putting a tax on imports coming into the country. Like, that's the dumbest thing. Milton Friedman. I once did a series with the great economist Milton Friedman. Where are we getting this from? Like who thought about this all of a sudden? Again, tariffs. Again, another Democratic economic strategy. Like, we live in a bizarre world, folks. We live in a bizarre world. I mean, hell, even if you even go back to, hell, implemented tariffs. But, again, Hoover, Woodrow Wilson, these people up the game as far as what they consider at that point in time progressive policy. How all of a sudden this is a Republican revelation? Hey, let's put tariffs on everybody, then we can make lots of money. I don't think it worked that way. But in any event, again, the stuff that Vance did he was very swarmy, if I could use that term, in how he answered questions. He answered them in a very polite and quintessential way. He did. I give him credit for that. But he didn't answer not a question all night long.
All right, thanks, MD. So, Uppity Negro, what do we think about the debate last night? Anything that's jumped out at you, or anything in particular you want to highlight from the debate last night?
Absolutely. I just wanted to bring up the point that civics classes are very important, because it seems to me that Vance, the person that's running VP, keep bringing up questions about Kamala running and wasn't she there? I mean, sir, you do realize she's a vice president, right? She's not a president. She's running to be president, which was one of the most stupidest moments when I hear him going on and on and on about what Kamala didn't do for what she did do. Again, she was VP. She's this sitting VP. That's what civics is for. It's too much for the moderators to go out and then having to explain what the job entails for a vice president. But you would think he would have known, because he's running for the same exact elected spot. So I digress. It was just one of those things that just kept annoying me, because he kept going on and on about Vice President Harris, and then he flips it all over again. So he was wishy-washy, flip-floppy, all over the place. Vance, I meant. Another thing that stood out to me was the whole Walz did a job bringing it back home whenever Vance was sidetracked or into the dance along of not answering the questions regarding women's reproductive health. I thought his new in regards to that was very, very very commendable, because I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, get him, because he just keeps going around and around. Like, he's trying to come up with a very formative way of like trying to like not answer the question, but try to look like he's like, you know, and know what I'm talking about. Walz did an excellent job in terms of like saying, hey, what it entails and so forth. And then he brings out the governor side, which is what I love, because in this day and age, you need somebody who has at least at some point some format in office. And I think that was up to me last. Walz keeps saying, hey, as a governor, when we had that natural disaster, what we did, you know, it's not about us, it's about like going out and assist the people in need. Like that kind of side, I was like, okay, perfect, because you're not going to get that. It's going to sound like a great person that speaks well and eloquent, and we didn't need that. I need you to like say, okay, if in this position, what am I doing now? And Walz brought that to me in terms of like the perception of it. The other thing that I think stood out to me as well was when I think MD had touched on it, but there was a lot of deflecting when it came to, like, for instance, the immigration question. It been like an you know, all right.
You're breaking up, Ricardo. Yeah, it's coming in and out, like it's breaking up a little bit.
I'm gonna try to see if I can stay in one spot and hopefully it works. A little bit better.
Oh yeah, that sounds real good. Yeah.
What I was gonna say, immigration question was a problem for me, because for some reason Vance went into the whole fentanyl thing. What does that have to do with the border and immigration? Like, I'm confused, because the whole fentanyl issue was before that start being a problematic issue. So him bringing up fentanyl completely just went around in circles, like answering the immigration question. But Walz did a fantastic job when he brought up the whole bill that should have been signed, that was both on the Democrats and Republican side, that Trump immediately killed it because it was an election issue that's been run on. I thought the moderators did a great job in terms of bringing that full circle as well, but very slick Vance part. I gotta hand it to him. And the whole objective is to try to make him look good, but he just kept going round and round in circles, not answering questions like MD had brought up, and then try to make it look like he just very slick and very cunning on his part. But I don't know if it really worked, because again, if you're undecided at this point, trying to pick on the basis of you're not sure if you want to pick Kamala or Trump, that didn't do it for me. But if you're smart, I wouldn't say smart. If you're off the MAGA low-hanging fruits, the ones like, hey, you know, I think that would be problematic, because what it's showing is that Vance, and if I were, how do I put this delicately, Van Cat and MD? If I were Trump and I'm a narcissist, I would not the fact that people would have liked Vance more this morning waking up, if you get my drift. So I think it would be a problem for Donald Trump, because if you remember well, Trump didn't, Pence was being liked more than him. So I think it would be an issue for him if the MAGA group there. I think that should be a problem for y'all, because it's different directions that I'm seeing here. One boisterous who's like, me this over person that's like, listen, I'm very mellow, I'm very chill, this is how I do stuff, and to speak very eloquent. There's a difference between the two, which again be like a cause for concern for the MAGA groups, because like MD mentioned, I don't know if, I'm trying not to like put words on there, I don't know if it's well on paper to have two different dynamism, like how we saw, because we saw with Pence and we saw that if the time comes down again, if we have another G6 issue, or the results not being, touted the night off, are we gonna like Vance, hey, I'm gonna do the right thing on principle, be the values, or are we gonna be like, okay, yes, sir, Donald Trump, you're right, it's not the country, it's about what you want. I think that's where the MAGA group needs to be, and questioning Vance is a go-to yes person, or is he going to do the good for the principle of the Constitution of the country, if that makes sense. So the list the Cheney's of the world compared to like the the sycophants. Would it make sense to have two different voids? I don't know. I mean, if I was Donald Trump this morning, I'd be like, this is me like more than me, and I'm Marsha here. Marsha should always be about Trump. I don't think people are talking much about Trump this morning, about Vance and how likable he came off, as opposed to being the weird guy that we gave actually when he was talking about and like sit at home and you know kids and all of this stuff. You didn't see that last night. Change the trajectory of what people made him out to look like. That was the point I wanted to bring across, was that likability is one thing, but is the mega group going, hey, yeah, he's not going to be like Pence, if God forbid is the second J6, he's going to go out there and call it like how Trump told Pence to call, and Pence didn't do it, or is he going to be that's going to be like, yes, sir, I'm going to say what you want. Because a lot of times what the moderators were bringing up was, hey, Vance, you said a lot of disparaging stuff about Trump and how like your stance changed. Now, is it different and he just kept flip-flopping on that too, which I would expect him to be flip-flopping about. But it's a good question that I think he danced around. So it kind of gave me a little bit of hope that maybe, God forbid, if the inevitable happens and he is VP, I want him to be able to do the Constitution first, country first, not what my president want me to do, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's what the whole point I was trying to convey with him in terms of what I watched last night. But
are you saying that about Vance though?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. God forbid, because he's slick. He did come across very likable, but under of what we know about him, he's very sly and he could change everything at any given moment. He's a perfect liar, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, the man didn't answer questions, but at the same length and breath, it's not like he didn't fact check them, so he got away with murder. The same thing with Walz. I mean, Walz got away with a little bit of thing or two here or there, but Vance to me is like, he's like a perfect liar. And what do we call perfect liars again? It's like there's a word for it, but he's very slick mouth and knows how to get away with stuff. So he's kind of similar to Trump, but at the same time, and length and breath, he's very likable, and that's how he wanted to come across. Now, would the weird moniker stick on him at this point? I don't know, based on what we saw in terms of the debate last night. But it's not like he answered the question like you said, MD. He just kept dancing round and round and coming up with different point of views to try to throw us off, like the people that don't know about civics well, when it comes to like what the duties of a person does in their DNA job that he's vying for. But I digress. I just hope, if God forbid, if he's chosen, is he going to put country first, or is he going to put manifesto first? That's the other issue I had. That should have been something that I think Walz should have went after. With Project 2025, he didn't do that with him. I think there's a lot of too much agreements going on, and not too much like, okay, this is what you should have done. But I feel like Walz wanted to do a Trump debate compared to a Vance debate. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, he already said that if he was in Mike Pence's position, he would have overturned the daggone election. So, they go country over party out the window.
Yeah. So I mean, if he said that out loud, then you pretty much know where. Because I mean, even with the whole Project 2025 thing, you know where his frame of mind is at. So that's a little bit scary to think about. That the fact that he wouldn't be a Liz Cheney or the other group that's on the other side. He would be more of a sycophant type of person. That's kind of alarming. At any given moment, if you're trying to protect this country, if you're trying to be a politician for this country, it's country first. It's not about what you want. It's at the end of the day, it's like you have to be a kamikaze kind of person that's like from Japan. When it comes to like protecting Japan, those kamikazes went crazy. They went in and they defeated enemies. The same thing should be in your mindset. I didn't want to use that frame of point, but again, country first, because that's what the Constitution says, compared to what you want. And that's scary for you to because I've never heard him say it out loud, MD, but then you said you brought up that point, so that gives me my answer. I don't think I want somebody like that to be VP. I need somebody to be like country first. If I have to put my finger on the detonation button, it should be country first, not about personal gains and feels of liking Lil' Kim and the rest of them that are in the world.
Right. I mean, that's what the questioning was about last night, because one of the moderators brought that up and asked him, "Hey, like, is that still your position?" And he didn't answer the question. He started talking about censorship. So, I mean, that pretty much lets you know where he at with that. You know what I mean? So, again, man, he sold a lot of snake oil last night. He definitely did that. But I mean that if we're looking at the substance, there was no difference, literally no difference between the Trump and Vance in a debate setting. No difference. Not from a substance standpoint. Now, from a personality, yeah, of course. I expect Vance to go up there and rant and rave, and I never expected that. I expected exactly what I got last night.
Yeah. So let's take a look now at the fact checking of certain questions or answers during the debate that CNN and I believe CBS highlighted some fact checked moments within the debate from last night. And we'll be back on the other end with our thoughts.
Here in Manhattan, Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz just wrapped up their vice presidential debate, effectively getting the last word in this race for the White House before an audience this large. Unless, of course, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris agree to debate again before Election Day. Fingers crossed. We've made the invitation. Harris has accepted. Tonight's debate was civil. The question of how factual it was is another matter. Let's find out from our fact checker, Daniel Dale, what he thinks. Daniel?
Jake, it certainly wasn't a perfect debate from Governor Walz from a fact checker's perspective, but I think there was more inaccuracy from Senator Vance, and I think Vance had the two biggest whoppers of the night, both of them actually in what he left out rather than what he said. Listen to his claims about Trump's post-election behavior in 2020 and early 2021.
He said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. He peacefully gave over power on January the 20th.
This is a pretty wild rewriting of history. Trump peacefully gave over power on January the 20th. Sure, Trump did not lock himself in the Oval Office, but he left office after trying extremely hard to not give over power. We all know this. He tried to manipulate everyone from the American public to state elections officials, to state legislators, to the Justice Department, to his very own vice president. He helped trigger a deadly riot. And then Vance said Trump called for peaceful protest on January 6th. Yes, Trump did that once in that January 6th speech, after calling supporters to Washington with a promise it would be wild, spending weeks whipping them into a frenzy with lies about the election, Vice President Pence's non-existent power to overturn the result, and then in that same January 6th speech, using combative language far more often than that calming language, saying things like, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. When you catch somebody in a fraud, you're allowed to go by very different rules. You'll never take back our country with weakness, on and on. Now, let's turn to another egregious distortion of history from Senator Vance, this one on Obamacare.
When Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care.
Casting Donald Trump as the savior of Obamacare, I think, is bananas. Donald Trump tried very hard to repeal Obamacare. The only reason it was not repealed in 2017 was because he barely couldn't find enough Republican votes in Congress. And then he tried to undermine Obamacare in various ways. He cut the open enrollment period in half. He slashed funding for advertising and for people who help other Americans sign up. He ended a key set of subsidies for insurers. His administration refused to defend some critical provisions of the law in court, instead arguing that they should indeed be invalidated. I could go on. So yes, Trump did keep operating the Obama exchanges. He didn't completely give up on it, but casting him as the savior of Obamacare, I think, Jake, is pretty dishonest.
Daniel, what stood out to you?
I think what most struck me, Anderson, was significant revisionist history from Senator Vance on the subject of Obamacare on January 6th. But I was also struck by the fact that we had a false claim from each candidate on the subject of reproductive rights. So first, let's listen to something that Governor Walz said about the conservative Heritage Foundation think tank's initiative known as Project 2025.
Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments.
This claim, which Governor Walz has made before, is false. Project 2025's 900-page policy document is online. You can read it. I've read it. Nothing in it proposes to make anyone register their pregnancy with the government. What Project 2025 does propose is that the federal government takes steps to make sure it is getting from every state detailed after the fact anonymous data on abortion and miscarriage. The federal government already gets this data from almost every state on a voluntary basis. Project 2025 wants to make it mandatory for all states, but there's no pregnancy registration involved in this data collection today. Project 2025 doesn't propose to change that. And in fact, Tim Walz's own state of Minnesota already posts detailed after the fact anonymous abortion and miscarriage data online on the state health department website. There is no pregnancy registration in Minnesota, of course. And I should also note that while the governor referred to their Project 2025, it is not an initiative of the Trump-Vance campaign itself, though it is, of course, also true that Trump and Vance have extensive and close ties to it. Now I want to look at a claim that Senator Vance made on his past position on abortion.
Why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard.
This is false. Before Senator Vance joined the Trump campaign and fell behind Trump's professed desire for a state-by-state approach to abortion, Vance did support a national abortion ban. In 2022, when he ran for the U.S. Senate, he said it in an interview, and this is a direct quote, "I certainly would like abortion to be illegal nationally." No caveats there. He added that he was, quote, sympathetic to the view that a national ban was necessary to stop women from traveling across state lines to obtain abortions. And he also said in his website during that Senate campaign that he was, quote, 100% pro-life, end quote, and that he favored eliminating abortion. These categorical words were on his website until Trump chose him as his running mate. They certainly included no caveats about opposing a federal legislation. And then in the Senate, as recently as late last year, he explicitly pushed a national ban as early as 15 weeks gestation. As a debate moderator said to him, he can try to spin that as just a standard, but it's not like a goal or a target. That was federal legislation, or the idea of it at least, that would have banned abortion at 15 weeks. And again, he was even more categorical, Anderson, before he was elected.
Let's go to the next one. And this one has been chewed over extensively in the campaign. J.D. Vance, Republican from Ohio, said, Vice President Harris became the appointed border czar. This could be a semantic issue for some people. We rate it, the CBS News confirmed team, as false. And here is why. That was never Kamala Harris's title. That was never her designated role. Immigration policy flowed through the president and the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. What Kamala Harris was appointed to do or asked to do was look at the root causes of immigration in the so-called Northern Triangle countries, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. That's why we rate that as false.
Senator.
All right, so there we go.
Wait a minute, Vance. Wait a minute. Stop the press.
Yeah.
Did you pay the Firestone bill?
Yes, it's paid.
Good God Almighty, Vance. You gotta do better, man. Hey, gotta get them tires, man. Gotta get them tires.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. So there we go. Some fact check in there. MD, what did you think here?
Yeah, man, pretty much everything that I expected in regards of what was said. Like I said, most notably, the positions. It's all, again, you got to understand, populism isn't about an agenda. It's about rolling with the punches in regards to what the consensus is. The reason they pulled back, everybody knows it, the reason they pulled back from the whole national abortion ban was because the national view disapproved of it from a national aspect. Now, again, they wanna go with what their base says. Don't get that twisted. ultimately they still want it because that's what they base want. But they still have to, in the course of what the national view says, got to go to a certain aspect. It don't matter what side it leans to. It don't matter. So in that regard, it's important to know that these people really don't stand on anything from a value standpoint. You know what I mean? That's what I would harp on if I was in the position, right? Um, the whole stuff about and when we covered this, the whole stuff about the borders, that's stupid. It's dumb. There was never a position like that. It was never spoken of from a national news perspective. Stupid. Everybody knew she went down there from a diplomatic standpoint to understand the root causes of why immigration was so big here in this country. In a specific area. It wasn't even like it was a totality. It was a specific area. So like I don't know what else to say to this point. We got a little over a month now. If you can't understand the basics of what these policies are from a Democrat, I don't know what else to tell you. Ain't nothing I can do. You know what I mean? Tim Walz again. I don't necessarily look at Tim Walz from a standpoint of he's just going to be clear cut on all his positions because he a cheeky type guy. You know what I'm saying? But I don't expect him to lie to the extremes of how I see Trump and Vance. It's no point. Why? Don't need to. So if we're looking at it solely from a fact check standpoint, hey man, Vance and Trump gonna get it every time. And my bad if it's loud. I'm outside.
Well, it's a good thing, MD, that it wasn't nothing like next week Tuesday colonoscopy or some nonsense that came up on the screen. That would have
Yeah.
been wild.
Hey man, hey, at least you got the bill paid, man. That's all that matters.
I know. At least that one.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So Uppity Negro, what do you think here about the fact check done on the two candidates?
Yeah, nothing surprising there. I think it's very interesting that they delved or dived into a lot of things that I was expecting people to know, and they didn't. That was kind of like very intriguing in the sense that a lot of people believed when Vance said she was the border czar. I mean, come on, and I agree with MD. At this point, is that supposed to really like it? You should know that her main job was to go down there and try to create some remedy, but it wasn't to solve the entire border issue. Like, come on now, that's ridiculous. The whole premise of that is by the Department of Homeland Security and the president. And again, you think people will know the principles of civics here when it comes to that matter. But again, people are fickle-minded. They're very absent-minded. They're very lost in the sauce when it comes to learning about the roles of what certain players play, and it's like it's hearsay and people take stuff and it runs like wildfire, especially with the MAGA group. They believe any goddamn nonsense that comes out that's been spewed by Trump and Vance. So I digress. I know better because I did civics. I know what and who is in control, who is in charge. Just like when they brought up the point to to Vance last night. You're in agreement that it's Congress and the House that has to pass legislation and get things done, not by the hands of such and such? And he was like, yes, because it again, if you didn't know that, you would think, oh, the president can do whatever he wants. That's not how that works. We have checks and balances, people. Again, civics. If you didn't go to school and try to figure civics out, or even took the opportunity to pay attention to it, you're going to be confused now because it's going round and round in circles. But that was one of the things that I think they brought up last night was like, oh, because again, shout out to the moderators, Laura and what's her name, by saying, hey, what if it has to go, again, you said such and such, but you do realize you have to go to the House and the Senate. They, at the end of the day, will have to pass legislation in order for certain bills to go through. And then it's signed by the president, who can then veto or who can then decide that he doesn't want to do the bill and send it back to them. So, with both of them in agreement with that, it was like, okay, at least that's a civic duty that we didn't have to explain to the audience. But I felt like they kind of missed that mark. They needed to probably have explained or dumb it down for certain people who didn't do civics, that this is how this process works. It's not about you doing hearsay and saying this and this is how they said it works and automatically we should believe it. That's not how that works. Politics runs hand in hand with the balances, and people didn't want to do that. So, again, they didn't want to do fact checked in, and this is where we end up with people, on the other side this morning touting and saying a whole bunch of crap that didn't make sense. But I digress because I didn't expect better. But all in all, I expected what I expected last night. It was the same jargon of I'm repping Trump, and this is what Trump said, and this is what Harris should have done, and this is what Harris said, and the whole reproduction thing was well done in Walz's part in terms of everybody whole circle in terms of women reproduction, and Vance dancing around speaking jargons that made no damn sense. The whole immigration bill, I wish Walz would have went further in and explained, which he kind of did. Letting the audience to remind them, because I think even now when I'm talking to people, they don't even remember this. A couple months ago, legislation would have been passed to allow both the Democrats and Republicans to pass this sweeping immigration bill in order to assist the border. But guess who stopped the damn bill? Again, it was Donald Trump. So for all you MAGA people who tend to be fickle-minded, it was your dude that told you not to vote for the damn bill, and we're still stuck in this perpetuity of nonsense of not getting the border issue solved, because it would have been a complete blow to. So again, what did I really expect? Not that much in terms of it's just rhetoric after rhetoric, and until we get to the final moment with my popcorn fully buttered, the reading result, who got 71st. We are just gonna get to this point of back and forth tussle. I don't think this is gonna move the needle. I think MD and Vancat, and I know that the debate last night wouldn't have done that much. But for all you undecided people who are out there and still can't figure out who to pick, I mean, what have you been doing for the past year and a half or the past 4 years? How are you still about this? Because the President VP pick is not going to make that the selection for you. But I'm hoping and I implore you to do your due diligence of knowing your local issues and voting for those. Here in Florida, it's about weed and abortion. If you're paying attention, Vancat, that's the main thing I'm seeing advertised over and over again. It's like, oh, weed is bad for you. It can affect pregnancy. And then there's other people that are like, no, we can monetize on weed, like in Colorado. And then it's the abortion thing. So I hope that's the thing that people are getting, in their head. Your local issues matter. I decided at this point, I don't know what kind of rock you hear, but that is going to help you decide. That's just me. I digress.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. So, the orange number 45, he sometimes he gets to freestyling, he gets to thinking and pondering. I got some thoughts, I got some concepts of a plan. So I really don't like the fact that there's people going into stores and stealing. People are just jacking for everything they can. He even made the comment that they're walking in with calculators and calculating just at the point of $900 where they can't get prosecuted at, and just stealing that amount and then leaving the stores with stuff. So Donald Trump's been up at night just pondering and wondering, what can he do? What can he think of that could curb some of this theft? Let's hear what Donald Trump's grand plan came to be.
The liberal left wants to destroy him, and they want to destroy our country. If you had one day, like one real rough, nasty day with the drugstores as an example, where when they start walking out with, she created something in San Francisco, $950 you're allowed to steal. But they have to be taught. Now, if you had one really violent day, like a guy like Mike Kelly, put him in charge, Congressman Kelly, put him in charge for one day. Mike, would you say, he's right here, He's a great congressman. Would you say, Mike, that if you were in charge, you would say, oh, please, don't touch them. Don't touch them. Let them rob your store. Let all these stores go out of business, right? They don't pay rent. Then the city doesn't have the whole, it's a chain of events that's so bad. One rough hour, and I mean real rough, the word will get out and it will end immediately. End immediately. You know, it'll end immediately.
Yeah, so that's the plot of The Purge, obviously. Someone told him about it and he got excited about it.
Tonight allows people a release for all the hatred and violence that they keep up inside them.
All right, so there we go. Donald Trump, his great idea, his great plan is literally a real life purge. So, Ricardo, what do you think about Donald Trump's brainstorming, coming up with this epic idea that's going to curb all theft in America?
I mean, the first time I heard him say it, I was like, that sounds like a direct script from the Purge movies. You know, at this point in time, I expect the media to not and fall into this category of spewing his nonsense, his senileness all over the web all over again. Expect them to start calling out the BS that he's saying and call out the fact that he's coming across senile now. Because really, you want one day to do a purge? Really, Donald Trump? It's like basically that's what you're insinuating. It sounded crazy to me, but again, it doesn't surprise me. This is Donald Trump. Agent Orange 45 has been Agent Orange 45 even before running for politics. So his frame of mind ain't going to change now. And as he gets older, he's beginning to sound even more crazier. So this is the man that y'all want to be the next president, who's going to be in his 80s, mid 80s at that point. And he says he's one of the fittest president to go into doing it. No, sir, you sound nuts. And if you're going to do the same treatment you did to Sleepy Joe, I'm going to call you crazy, Trump, at this point, because you just sound nuts. Everything that you're saying, rhetoric, makes sense. And people are eating this up and going, oh, yeah, he's macho, and yeah, he's bravado. Like, get the hell out of here with that. Like, no. So at this point, I'm just going to see now Trump. That's what he's beginning to come across to me. Not to say the other side is insane and doing crazy stuff, but it's way toned down compared to what you're bringing to the table, sir. This ain't it. Like, inciting violence is not it. This 10, 20 years ago would not even have been coming out of any Republican contender president's mouth. But this is where we're at. Like, we've amped up the crazy and to believe nonsense. And nothing makes sense because alternative, facts and universes and twilight zones is the now thing. Like, I implore all of us to go back to when civility was commonplace and things make sense. But I digress. That ain't where we're at now. We're literally at an election cycle where contenders are neck and neck, and it goes either way. And just to bring up this point, just before I pass it on to MD. All it takes for Kamala to win is technically 3 states, and we're not counting the swing states at this point, for her to get at the 270 mark. That's all she needs is 3 of the states that are like important for her to win. Once she gets to 270, she pretty much has this in the bag. Now, the flip states, which are like the Georgias and the Pennsylvanias and all of that, if she could wrap that up, she would be in an easy majority. But That's how close, literally, is how this election comes down to. We're literally up to 5 away from it. So expect him to ramp up the crazy once more yet again, but it has to take something shocking for people to go, okay, yeah, we're going to move from him and go towards her, or for her to do the same. I think this strike in the ports will become detrimental because she can't, the Democrats at this point are lost for a spot moment. You can't say you're not going to support them, and you can't say you're going to force them back. If it's the implementation of automation being an issue, they're going to have to tackle this on now, because we can't afford to go through a situation where it's going to be created for reports and then driving up prices, and then because the world economy is so fickle with all these wars that are beginning to start now. This is just so problematic on so many levels. But I guess we're going to touch on that later on, so I don't want to jump the gun. But it's presenting an issue now that I think they're going to have to wrap up and fix very quickly. I digress. Unions and all of that we're going to talk about. So let's get into commerce and market flow and economics 101.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. MD, are you available? He's probably still out. So Trevor is doing his latest campaign. I mean, you remember about a year ago, Trevor did his hashtag free MD20. And as you can see, MD is free now. So Trevor pretty much starts these movements, these grassroots movements that Trevor knows how to start. And now his latest grassroots movement is to release the Strictly Real Masters. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's buried somewhere.
So do you have it somewhere? The word on the
I do. I have it. I have it buried in my closet. I got like a whole bunch of stuff in that closet. Oh my god!
But like R. Kelly says, it's time to get out of the release them from the closet. Damn it! It's time that we hear what the bearded one sounded like when he was in the rap group, and hopefully there's a lot of explicit rapping.
That is T.J. Hammer, sir. T.J. Hammer.
T.J. Hammer. We want to hear all of that. We want to hear what it sounded like back in that circa era. We need to hear the tapes, Vancat. Release the tapes. I'm sure the Trump attention by now. Release the tapes.
Oh man. All right. So since we're waiting for MD, so let's just go right into the video dealing with the unions. And once that is over there, we'll get on the other end and have our thoughts. This is a big issue. It's always a big issue. This is American workers fighting back for once and not bending the knee to the corporate entities. So let's take a look at this video real quick, and then we'll have our thoughts on the other end.
You are going to grind the economy to a halt here on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast.
No, not us. They are. Don't spin it now because you're Fox News. They're going to drive it.
But are you worried?
They're going to drive it.
Are you worried that this strike...
They have the capital to settle this thing.
Are you worried that this strike is going to hurt the everyday American, the farmers that need to reach the export market? They're telling me that they're going to hurt through all of this.
Now you start to realize who the longshoremen are, right?
Nobody cares.
People never gave a about us until now, when they finally realized that the chain is being broke now. Cars won't come in. Food won't come in. Clothing won't come in. You know how many people depend on our jobs? Half the world.
That was Harold Daggett. He is the union president representing dock workers who have gone on strike. Tens of thousands, in fact, have gone on strike along the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. And this is essentially leading to panic among Democrats who feel that if this strike goes on for too long, It's going to negatively impact the economy and could potentially negatively impact Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Now, we're going to get to that in just a minute, but first some details about the strike, which is expected to cost at least hundreds of millions of dollars a day, and depending on how long it goes, could cost the economy billions of dollars. Now, the dispute is between the International Longshoremen's Association, or ILA, and the shippers/port operators. Now, the union represents 47,000 longshoremen, and the workers who have gone on strike do important work. They load and unload ships and maintain equipment, and essentially they're the lubricant that allows for our global trade to run smoothly, right? The imports and exports to run smoothly. Now, the strike affects 14 major ports along with a few dozen smaller facilities, which brings the total number of facilities and ports from Maine to Texas to 36. And I should note that the West Coast longshoremen are represented by a separate union. They are not going on strike in states like California, Oregon, and Washington. The ports there remain open. Now, Harold Daggett, the individual you heard from earlier, the union's president, has said the greed of international shipping lines would be to blame for his members going on strike. The union contends its members deserve a greater share of the hundreds of billions of dollars in profits operators have made in recent years, especially after they worked through the coronavirus pandemic. And it is true, industry profits are pretty huge. So according to CNN, they looked into this, and those profits topped $400 billion from 2020 to 2023, just 3 short years, which is believed to be more than the industry had previously made in total since containerization started in 1957, according to analyst John McCone. Now, also, Greg Miller, who's another reporter who's been tracking this, reported that over the past half decade, larger cap shipping stocks have outpaced the S&P 500 by between 2 and 10 times. Insider wealth from shipping ownership has surged by hundreds of millions of dollars, and the longshoremen would like a piece of that pie. The longshoremen's current contract, agreed to back in 2018, provides top wages of $39 an hour. Now, keep in mind, that's the top wage. Total pay varies, though, widely. A 2020 report on longshoremen in New Jersey and New York showed the median annual pay was around $160,000, which sounds good, right? It sounds like a decent salary, but some of the workers made less than $25,000, while others brought in more than $450,000. Another thing that they are, on the picket line for is they want some concessions from their employers in regard to automation. They want to prevent automation from taking place. And there's a whole political component to this with calls for Joe Biden to intervene and prevent the strike from continuing.
The thing that I loved most was that clip, because my whole life, some obnoxious corporate media goon goes up to striking workers and goes, wow, are you okay with damaging the US economy? Are you okay with hurting other Americans? And the workers, because they haven't been trained up right, they weren't notified about corporate media, didn't understand that concept, etc. Their union leaders hadn't told them the right things. That they'll get in a defensive posture. If you talk to union leadership, they were in a massively defensive posture until about 2 years ago, right? For my whole life, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're so sorry, it's our fault," right? Now they're like, "Hey, why don't you go ask the business guys that are making $400 billion why they're hurting the farmers and they're hurting the average citizen?" Great, and he called them biased media. There you go, okay? I love that has filtered down. Look, somebody asked about hope. I'll talk about it during one of the social breaks, but there's a little bit of hope there, that people are beginning to realize that corporate media is biased in favor of corporations, of course, and that they frame every issue. There's many different ways to look at each issue, right? And they frame it as, well, if there's a strike, it's obviously the workers' fault. Wait, why are you framing it that way? So now look, when you look at their salaries, I saw another report average of around 80,000. That's not that bad. With overtime, some people can get up to 200,000. Okay, not bad. Now, if it was a nascent industry or a troubled industry, now the steel industry is the one that's used too often and is oversimplified. But let's say that it's an industry that's in trouble, and I'd say, okay, well, let's see here. What's a reasonable wage? What makes sense, et cetera. But if these guys are making $100 billion in profits every year, you can't tell me you can't afford it.
Exactly.
Because it's not like it's going to bring your company down. What it's going to do is cut in a little bit to your profits that your executives would normally take home or your shareholders would.
Yeah, and by the way, I mean, executive pay, of course, is astronomical. But I'm actually shocked to say that in this case, Biden is showing his pro-union bona fides because he's refusing to do it. So without further ado, let's hear what he had to say in regard to a question about implementing or invoking Taft-Hartley. Taft-Hartley would impose an 80-day cooling off period for the workers so negotiations can continue without a strike. Here's what Biden has to say about the possibility of invoking that.
Mr. President, would you intervene in the dock workers strike if they go on strike on Tuesday?
No.
Why not?
Because it's collective bargaining. I don't believe in Taft-Hartley.
Now, what's also kind of interesting is the White House is saying, don't worry, we're working around the clock to get a deal done. They love to use working around the clock to get deals and ceasefires done. But nonetheless, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo seemed to be caught flat-footed on the issue while speaking to CNBC yesterday.
What would this mean for businesses if we go into the strike, and what do you know about it? It's not a secret that this would be, depending on how long it lasts, could be incredibly disruptive to commerce. Again, I have not been very focused on that. I would refer you to the White House or the Transportation Secretary. As I said, I haven't been particularly involved.
I mean, look, maybe I'm just not knowledgeable enough about what cabinet members are supposed to do, but I was under the assumption that the Commerce Secretary would be involved in this, would at least be a little more knowledgeable about what's going on, but okay.
That was hilarious because she also threw Pete Buttigieg under the bus.
Yeah.
She's like, go talk to the Transportation Secretary. All right? He's in charge of all the messes.
So amazing. Anyway, now the National Association of Manufacturers has called on Congress to do something if Biden doesn't, but that would of course require Congress to, like pass a bill, which is kind of laughable if it's not involving defense spending or military aid to Israel. So that's not going to happen. But even if it did, even if miraculously Congress passed legislation, Biden would have to sign it. And right now it appears that he is against intervening with this strike. And so the Democratic Party is concerned. They're worried that if this strike goes on for too long, it could cause crippling inflation and shortages of products that consumers need and want, and that voters will take their anger out on Kamala Harris. And that's definitely a possibility. I don't know how I feel about that argument. I would say that Democrats have really bled support among blue-collared workers in this country. They used to be the party that represented ordinary workers, and that's no longer the case. And so,
all right, so there we go. We have a strike going on. We have, of course, it's the same old story. We got these corporate entities, these CEOs, these bastards. They're making in the last 3 years they made what 300-400 billion, and for some reason, there's no way they could even give some of that money, which rightfully is owed to the workers. That creates the products, creates the work that's needed to make the machine go. And for some reason, we can't pay that now. We ain't got it. We ain't got it. So also the interesting thing here, Democrats did not get the endorsement of the labor union, and they've been at odds. So Donald Trump actually got 60% of the internal vote for the labor unions. They decided not to endorse any candidate. So this is like the first time in like forever a Democrat didn't easily secure the union's endorsement. So they're at odds right now, and Biden right now is sounding like he's saying the right things for the union, but Kamala Harris is trying to win an election, and this stuff is going down right now, and this is the kind of stuff people will feel immediately. So, MD, are you available to speak on this one?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So, what are your thoughts? Because we know you don't like unions.
Yeah, to hell with them. Bring in Julio, bring in Cesar. Hey, hit a couple buttons, pick these damn containers up off the ship. If a couple of them fall, they fall. I don't care at this point. See, and again, Vacat, you keep going to these TYT again. First of all, they lied about the numbers of the income. They took a very small regional income that's not even proportionate to the entirety of the union and tried to inflate those numbers and make you think that these people are making this. And that's far from the case. Shame on TYT. Shame on damn Anna Kasparian. I told you stop listening to these people, man. She just told you a lie, saying that these longshoremen are making all this money. It's not. It's a very specific area where, yes, the median is around 150. And kudos to her for at least telling the truth about the range, because again, unions are no better than these corporate entities. Why? Because they use the same outline. You go into a union, you're not going to get paid the same amount of money as everybody else. They work off a good old boy system, and they make sure that the good old boys get to reap the benefits of said collective bargaining. That's just what it's been for decades, since the days of old. I don't understand why people don't understand this. As if somehow.
So
go ahead.
I just want to say though, so you're saying that Filippo, Rodriguez, Jimmy, Billy, and Hank is going to be able to make a difference, stand up to the multi-conglomerates that are out there, multi-billion-dollar conglomerates that are out there making all this money. They got bigger lawyers, they got bigger dollars, they got bigger everything. And if you say what they don't want to hear, you just get fired. And then you find
I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, I don't disagree with striking either. But I'm telling you, Vec, and I've been telling you this.
Yeah,
I've been saying this since I've known you.
Yeah,
you don't have to be in a union to strike. You don't have to do that. As a matter of fact, your individual presence of a collective, a bigger issue, is way more huge, because that shows that there is an instinctive purpose of knowing what you are worth. The hell with the union. What are you worth?
But MD, that would be like, okay, so you're saying, yeah, within the individual, yeah, you stand up, you do what's right. Now, judging by what we've seen in politics and in life, where people have to go get together, like remember that the black lady that ran for president, she knew she wasn't going to become
Shirley
the
Chisholm.
president, right? But what she did know was if she pushed enough to collectively, you could get things that you weren't getting before. You could.
I don't disagree with that.
But what happened? Everybody starts saying, "Well, she can't win," so they didn't vote for her, and then the whole thing crumbled. So under a union, you're better structured, you're better focused, and you're better organized. Individually, everybody will run out the back door, and we've seen this time and time again. So I mean, I get.
So it sounds like you got work to do then, Vec. Ain't nobody said it's gonna be easy.
No, it's not.
But I'm telling you, I shouldn't be in a position to conform to whatever the union say. Man, I wish they would have told me, as what was that, last Friday? These guys come in the dock talking about, all right, everybody clock out. and you ain't in no position to tell them to kiss your ass either, because you bound by the union charter. That's not what if that person couldn't afford to say, yeah, union, blah blah blah, rah rah. No, I need to work. You gonna
Yeah,
deny that person's individual right to work? No, I can't
but
rock with that. I can't do it. I
but
can't do it.
you were rocking with the union after
And
they went through the bad times,
get
and
you.
you were rocking with them when the times were good.
No,
So
you were rocking with the union because you didn't have a choice to rock with the union because the industry is controlled by the union. You ain't got no
so
choice.
but you're putting a lot of faith in the big wigs on top because if
I'm
you
not putting no faith. I'm putting faith in myself, knowing what
no,
I'm
you
worth. Knowing what? Do you know what you're worth, Van Cat?
I know what I'm worth, but just like a lot of these Hollywood actresses and actors, they realize that you can get undercut just like that because you don't control the system of the theaters, the system of the studios that make the films.
No, it should
If
do. It ain't yours.
Not unless I sleep my.
exactly, so you could say, hey, I'm
Just like those
worth.
shipping containers, just like those docks, just like those
Yeah,
pickup machines, ain't the workers. Sorry.
yeah.
Hey,
So
Jesus, where you at? Hit this
Robots, damn
button.
it. You know the iRobots, damn it. We do not want no damn.
Hey, if this what we got to deal with, being on the brink of a national disaster when it comes to
yeah.
the supply chain, Johnny Five, come hit this button.
Johnny Five. Oh my God, short circuit reference.
And that's
Hold
just
on.
what it is. I'm sick of it, to be honest with you.
All right, so we got Mr. Straight Talk, who can identify with this issue. What's going on, TJ Hammer?
TJ Hammer down.
Peace, peace. Can you guys hear me? I'm on a new headset.
Yes, sir. TJ Hammer down.
Yep.
All right, good. I came in. I didn't get to hear MD from the beginning, which I really wish I would have been able to hear him. But so this is my field. This is what I've been doing for over 20 years now. So I'm gonna look at this a couple of ways. First of all, let's look at what they're asking for. The last number I heard they were asking for is a 75% raise. So
Over 6 years.
75 over 6 years. So 75% raise over, let's say, the least amount of money those guys make is probably like $25 an hour. Because longshoremen, that's pretty much about what they make. But then I think I heard MD say some was making like $39 at the top level. So some of them bring home about 80 grand, upwards to 200 if they work overtime. So here's the deal. A longshoreman isn't a skilled trade. Like literally you could find any guy off the street to be a longshoreman and just teach them how to drive a forklift. It sounds bad, but it's the absolute truth. Like I said,
Right.
I've been doing this for over 20 years. There's not a better heavy forklift driver in the world than me. Like I literally could drive any forklift in the world. So you literally could you could train anybody to do it. I train guys every day to drive these things. So so you could get any guy to do it. The union. So MD, real quick. So you're anti-union, huh?
I'm very anti-union, and let me add to your point, Trail. That particular subsect of the union is a smaller section of like the Teamsters. So we already know where the ideology lies. But go ahead, Trail.
Okay, so I see. I didn't know MD was anti. Well, I probably should have known that
Man,
he was
how you didn't know
anti-union.
that?
But yeah. That's weird for me to say that. But so now this is where I agree with Van Cat now, because I don't want to do it, but I will do it. The disparity is crazy, because we hear $80,000 to $200,000, and you're like, boy, that's a lot. But when you have executives that's not doing a damn thing, bringing home millions of dollars a year compared to the guys that's out there actually doing everything, the disparity is crazy. You're talking about a $400 to $500 billion industry, and these guys are only asking for maybe 20% of that. It's not going to hurt them that much. So now, as far as the strike, I'm waiting for my dad to respond because my dad actually works down there. So I want to know what it's been like for him. So now as far as the strike and the goods that's coming in, because we got to be real careful because everybody's saying like, oh my God, it's going to be a massive shutdown. No, it's not, because the type of goods that's coming in aren't those things that's like we can't get here or oh my God, if we don't get them, we're going to shut down completely. It'll force you to go to your local farmers markets and stuff like that, because now you aren't bringing in bananas and shit from other countries, things like that. And don't get it twisted. They offered 50% raise increase. These guys are asking for 75, which is insane to ask for a number that high. Hey, if you can get it, get it. But they've come to the table and said, hey, we'll give you 50% increase, which is still ridiculous, ridiculously high for a job that you literally could be replaced on by anybody.
Right.
So
What the average person that's working getting that? What what are we talking about?
Exactly. That's
This
what
is
I'm
ridiculous.
saying. Because at first I was like, you know what, man, this crazy, just strike forever. But then I'm like, nah, bro, because they you know what got me? They showed this Haitian guy, and they interviewed him, and he was like, hey, I get paid every day to call loads. He said, as long as this goes on, I'm not getting paid. So I look at guys like that, that's literally now not going to get paid. And don't get it twisted. They're going to move this fight because they're
with a union. Not affiliated with a union. Make sure you say that.
Yeah, they're not affiliated with a union. But listen, what's going to happen? Because again, I'm telling you, this is what I do. I deal with these companies all day, every day. MSC, the Mediterranean Shipping Company, is the one that's all this is going on with. You do know that they'll just contract other foreign shipping container companies to go through the Panama Canal. You do realize that, right? Like
They'll
this ain't
get
gonna
Maersk, they'll get any one of them companies and let it ride.
Listen, one monkey's not going to stop a show. I have a machine. I actually have 2 machines coming from China that's supposed to be delivered to me early October. You mean to tell me I'm not going to get my machines to get my work going because some people don't want to concede to 50% increase? Nah, it ain't going down like that. I mean, it'll be an inconvenience, but where there's a will, there's a way. There's always going to be something else. And then my last thing, I'm gonna concede with this. This is not going to hurt the industry at all. So it's like you're like, oh my God, the shipping company, they're going to learn their lesson and blah blah blah. No, they're not, because all the backlog of work now that they're getting from this, they're just going to charge it back to the customers. That's it. They're not going to lose. They're not going to lose. When I tell you, MD, trust me, this is what I do on a daily basis. I negotiate and haggle with shipping companies all day. I get freight routed every single day from all over the country. So I know what's going on right now. Like, bro, they're gonna use somebody else, or they're gonna triple the price and pass it on to the customers. That's it. Yeah. That's what they're gonna do.
They'll blame Biden for the inflation. Now, I disagree with one point as far as like what's going on the dock. And again, I got firsthand account on this. We deal directly, like I was saying in the group chat. We mostly go to Panama City. We go directly to the port and get stuff in Panama City. A lot of they container pickers are automated already, so you ain't got to deal with that. So some shoremen still operating container pickers elsewhere. So I would say in that aspect, you might see a dent as far as like supply chain because of the actual people that's got to pick the container. But unloading, nah. You can get anybody.
Yeah, that's the thing I did forget. This I forgot the automation aspect. That's really why they're mad, because what they're basically want, they want that 75% increase over 6 years, because they're figuring in 10 years they'll be completely out of a job. So they're going to use it to offset what they're going to lose in 10 years. Don't get it twisted. This is man versus machine here. And I see it in my industry. We already have 3 robots in our company. Literally 3 robots that work. They work 24 hours a day. They do not get tired. All you have to do is program them. That's why CNC operation is so great. Is what I was telling you about, Venkat. All we do is program them. They do their thing. Well, I'm gonna send you guys a video tomorrow of watching them in work, just grabbing parts, and they're running automotive parts for us. All they do all day, grab parts. Yeah, bro. They literally
no Negro do
all
that.
they do. Exactly. They don't take piss breaks. I don't have to yell at them and be like, bro, why are you taking like your 10th shit break for the day? Like, bro, they're literally just they're literally just grabbing parts, putting them on, and cutting them CNC operation. And hey, for the $200,000 that they cost, they're replacing, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of man labor. They are. This is what this is about, man versus machine.
The only caveat to that, though, Trev, is that God forbid if something happened to like the machines break down, then you're gonna have to like.
Well, that's where the industry changed, though, Ricardo. You got to have the necessary personnel that's able to rectify that with the know-how to fix it. So why sit here and complain about some old world technology? Oh, all I do is I sit on my ass every day. Sit on your ass every day on the forklift, unloading containers. You know what I'm saying? When you need to be saying, look, the industry is changing. What do we need to do as a union? If I'm going to go the union route, what do we need to do as a union to make sure that we straight in the industry that we in? The hell with that. No, I want more money now. Even though I probably ain't going to have no job 10, 15 years, I want more money now. That way I squeeze as much as I can.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Now again, I'm not tripping on the strike. I'm saying you don't tell me when to strike. That's all I'm saying.
And MD, don't. Did I fall off? And doesn't everybody have to strike? Oh, like when they strike, don't they have to strike collectively?
Yes.
Yeah, you got to. Except for places in the South, right to work. Like through the bargaining agreement in a lot of right to work states, you don't have to strike. That's why they don't strike at all. Like places like Georgia, I don't know about Florida. A place like Georgia, Alabama, it's in the collective bargaining. You cannot strike.
Yeah, they're striking the port of Miami and the Everglades.
I believe they're doing it in Savannah too. But that means that's illegal, is what I'm telling you. You can't tell me as in a right to work state what I'm supposed to do. Now again, if you sign and go by the bylaw, you got to do it. You know what I'm saying? But in other places like New York, that industry is tied to the union. Meaning, if you want to get in that industry, there ain't no workaround. You know what I'm saying? Like up north, it ain't no workaround.
No, see,
let me. Oh, go ahead, Ricardo. Go ahead.
So
because now y'all talking my type of talk now. So I want to ask Venkat something, but go ahead, Ricardo.
I was gonna say, you would probably be the one. I'll be like, man, F this. I'm gonna break the picket line. You'll be that one person that's gonna be like, listen, I'm gonna.
No, you can't. No, that ain't what I meant. So of course, if you sign and go with the union, you with the union. You got to go by the bylaws and all of that. That ain't what I meant. Right to work is simply saying, hey, look, Georgia has the right to make sure that other companies, other organizations can compete with the union, so to speak. So, like I say, you got longshoremen in Georgia that's not union affiliated. See what I'm saying?
Got you.
Like when I was an electrician, you got IBEW, which is union. Then you got IEC, which is non-union. You know what I'm saying? So if something happened with they can go on strike, everybody just hire IEC electricians. The hell with y'all. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
So that's how it works. Like in places like, go ahead.
No, hey Venkat, because I know this killing Venkat right now because he Mr. Humanitarian and stuff
his blood
like that.
boiling.
Yeah,
Oh
he
Lord.
probably want to cuss. He want to cuss all us out. Vancat. So I hope you heard though the first thing I said when I came on here, that I agree with you as far as the cut the disparity is crazy, because you know me and you've been arguing about that for years. But so listen, let's just use a low ball number, just because you know my mind not mathing right now. If say they're making base salary like 60 grand, they want 50% increase over 5 years. So that would bump. So they're saying within 5 years they want $90,000. Correct? Is that simply what they're saying? Well, no, they want 75%. So they
75. They
want
want 75.
75. So they want 105. So they want 105,000 in 5 years, but they're being offered 90 right now. So you, as Mr. Humanitarian, and people should be paid all this money, how do you see that? Like, if I'm offering you a $30,000 increase over 5 years, so that's like what, 30,005, do the math. What's that, like 6,000? Yeah, that's it, 6,000. I'm giving you, see, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm giving you a $6,000 bonus. I'm giving you a $6,000 increase over 5 years, every 5 years. But you want 8 or 9.
Right.
Do you say, Mr. Vancat, because we know how you are, do you say, at what point do you say, okay, the workers are being greedy? Now keep in mind that what BNMD said, that we literally could get anybody to do what they're doing. I don't listen. So when I say this, when I first started in my industry, I used to drive the forklifts, and I learned how to drive them all. I could drive any size. So, and I'm the trainer at my job, in addition to everything else. Any new forklift drivers we get and stuff like that, I'm the one that has to train them. So I literally could train Pablo to load shipping containers. I have 3 of them in the parking lot right now. I literally could train Pablo to load shipping containers all day for a fraction of what these guys want. So now you, Mr. Venkat, are you saying, I want to hear from you. Do you think these guys are being too ambitious and saying, hey, I want 75%? Who the hell gets a 75% raise on their job? That's crazy. Do you think they're being too ambitious? Would you settle for the 50?
No, I don't. I don't think. No, there's no settling. They're not being too ambitious. And in other examples in life, when you see like rent go up from up to $400, $800 within a calendar year, when you see sports stars and whatnot, football players, basketball players, whoever, and they get the kind of contrast they get, those are examples of money increasing dramatically in a short period of time, and we don't bat an eye to that. However, when you got real American workers that's busting their ass and they were underpaid previously, somehow the 50% increase is supposed to erase all that other loss that they have been taking years previous, years and decades. And if you looked at the piece, it wasn't saying that it was $25 an hour. It was saying that it was $25,000 a year. Some people are
I don't
getting
believe that. I don't believe.
$25,000 a
I
year
cannot
is
believe that.
poverty.
Yeah, well,
I can't believe that.
do believe it. I do believe it because
MD.
You just
no. They said they were going by the median. Remember that.
You just outlined how easy and insignificant and unflattering the job that they have to do, that it's so easy to replace, blah, blah, blah. Of course,
you just made that sound
go
bad.
there. Huh?
I said, you made that sound bad. I ain't make it sound that bad.
I think we need to make it.
We pretty much said.
Right, but we got to make sure we put the context in, though.
No.
We was talking about the median, right?
Yeah.
On the low end, it was 25,000.
Right.
But again, they weren't putting that in the context. Well, I do buy it because unions are known.
Trevor's having a hard time.
You got to understand, unions work very particular on how they do stuff. Just because you got a union job don't mean that you got a forever job. That ain't what it means.
Fact.
Union job meaning you're protected.
Yep.
From an economic standpoint by the union. Unions are some of the highest turnover rates in the country. That's what VanCat don't understand.
I just think.
So I do believe it. $25,000. You probably only work like maybe 6 months out that whole year.
I think that the way things been going, you could trace the decline of the American worker to the decline of unions in the country. When there were more representation of unions, people were paid better. People got better work conditions. I mean, we have a weekend. We have a 5-day work week, 40 hours. All that stuff was pioneered by people involved in the unions. That was progressives. That was people looking for better change. We still
But
got
that's
a
a
lot more
bad
to
thing,
do.
Venkat. But
How's that a
Venkat,
bad
we would agree. No, we would agree the 40-hour work weeks are a bad thing. It used to be 25. And by the way, $25,000 a year is $13 an hour. You can't show me one longshoreman that make $13 an hour. I will not buy that. Absolutely not. I can't buy that, MD. Not
Again,
in
you
Florida.
going off an hourly rate.
Let
I'm
me
not
preface
going
this.
off an hourly rate.
Not in Florida. Not in Florida. It's not happening in Florida.
I don't think Florida's a high-paying state.
No, but I'm saying
it's not.
I'm saying for the longshoremen. I'm telling
you've
you,
been, but Trevor,
longshoremen's.
you've been with your company all this time. You hadn't been with your company, then moved to WCW, then moved to AEW, then moved to AEW. You didn't do that. You were
No,
Shawn Michaels. You were Shawn Michaels all this time. All right. Meanwhile, everybody else is Ric Flair and Hogan, and we've been in different places. So you have this great outlook on the pay because your company seems to be a company that values a little bit more. I'm saying there's other pieces of rat bag trash ass companies out there that ain't seeing it the way your company does. So kudos to your company,
but what I'm saying is I'm not talking my company. We aren't longshoremen. That's not what we do. But we're in the shipping industry. Like we deal with that. So I know how what longshoremen do. But what I'm telling you, I remember 20 years ago, I had a court situation, and this guy was in court begging the judge not to send him to jail. He said because he didn't want to lose his job. And the judge was like, what do you do? He was like, Judge, I'm a longshoreman and I make $20 an hour. That was 20 plus years ago. So I'm not buying that no longshoreman in 2024 is only making $13 an hour. I can't
That's
buy
not
it.
what that meant. That's not what that meant.
That's crazy.
That's not what that went off. It's not going off an hourly rate. That $25,000 was going off median. Again, she was saying the median was 150. That was wrong, even what she said. But she said low end $25,000. That's because a lot of longshoremen, trust me, I know, a lot of longshoremen don't work the whole year. That's just a fact. When you got certain situations, again, they call them lumpers. They'll come in, unload, load, depending on what the volume is. If the volume get low, they let them go. That's a fact.
Okay, so you're talking about like the deadliest catch. They only work like 3 months out of the year. Okay, I go. Okay,
no, but that's for all of them. They go off volume, and then they'll go down to the hall, the union hall, and sign the job board again. That's how every union works.
Okay, I won't disagree with that because I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, ain't no way in hell. Okay, you ain't got no argument with me for that. Then okay.
But that's what VanCat want. VanCat want everybody to be unionized. That way, only one that you got another hierarchy within the union that's sealing your fate one way or another.
Yeah,
that's what VanCat.
They got crazy. Okay, crazy. I left work 2 hours early today, and ain't gonna affect me one bit. Like I'm telling you, man, I love the ability to be able to negotiate on my own. I don't need nobody negotiating for me. I don't. I really don't, man. I don't. I just don't. But listen. Hey, when you say the numbers like that, like, hey, they want a 75% increase. Hell, the industry is bringing in over 500 billion plus a year. They could give up 10% of that. Like that, I listen. Me and Van can't argue about this all the time, but I think we're arguing more so because I think Venkat's saying everybody should be on an equal playing field, which I don't believe that at all. But I do think that more of the pie should be divvied with the people that's actually doing the work. Because, like, I mean, I always use us as an example, man. It was only pre-COVID, and there's a guy that comes to Man Talk Monday every Monday. He'll tell you, pre-COVID, we were paying our guys max like $16 an hour. Now our low end guys coming in at like 22. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Y'all been lowballing these guys all these years. The money was always there. The money. So I get what you're saying. The money was always there. So I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But what I'm saying is, then we go back to the whole thing again. Somebody at Wawa shouldn't be making as much money as me. I'm sorry. They just shouldn't. It's crazy.
Yeah, but if you're getting the money you're supposed to get, it would already be divided out properly, meaning that your money doesn't stop and Wawa money goes up. When the minimum wage goes up, it isn't like, oh, minimum wage got closer to me. No. Therefore, by response, your money's supposed to go up as well. And that's the idea behind it. A lot of people are like, oh, minimum wage will be so bad and if it goes up and all this other crap. No, it won't. No, it won't. Because
what is minimum wage now?
Minimum wage is $7 and change. And it wasn't even Obama that did it. It was Yes, it is. The federal minimum wage is $7 a change. And it's George W. Bush that increased it, not Obama, not Biden. So
now each state, they can dictate what their minimum wage is, but the national minimum wage is like $7.60.
When does the 15 go into effect?
It's already been in effect. It was voted in 2020, and the Republicans in Florida said, "Oh, hold on now, let's make it an incremental thing, $1 a year." So that's crazy. I think we're up to 13 or 14 right now. But this is how Republicans work in this state, at least.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But you know what's funny though, because I got to go back to COVID again. During COVID, and you'd go to all these places that that were under lockdown and stuff, and you'd look on the thing, like hell, even at Wawa, you'd like to use them as an example because I go there every day. They had on the signs, now hiring, $16 an hour. McDonald's, $16. And it didn't matter where you went. Everybody was like $15, $16 an hour during COVID. When COVID was over and the world opened back up, slowly you see that starting pay signs go down to like, hey, now we're starting you at 13, or now we're starting. Yeah, I'm like, bro, that's so wicked, bro. That's
called supply and demand, my brother. I mean, it is what it is. During COVID,
it's called bull.
It was less people working. When it's less people working, you raise the price. I asked you a couple weeks ago, Trevor, if you told them, okay, I'm gonna pay you $16, they tell you to kiss your ass. Everybody telling you to kiss your ass. Eventually, that price is gonna go up because you can't find nobody to work. That's just how the world turned, man. I'm sorry. That's just what it is.
On Indeed, in 2020, when I was looking for a job, I came across a job that required a bachelor's degree, and it was $14 minimum wage. Right in the thick of 2020. So it's crazy. All bull. 2020 exposed a lot. And this idea that like, oh, anybody can be trained and put into a job. Well, I don't care what job you do. The more seasoned that you're at doing something, you're going to be more proficient at it. And I would rather have people that are more used to, comfortable, and capable of doing the job than other unproven off the street scallywags. Because you know a big percentage of those people are they're gonna show up late, they're gonna call out a lot, or they're gonna
Oh,
be,
tell me about it.
wishy-washy.
Or
And
quick.
that's what
Tell me
and
about it.
the most
Jesus Christ.
unproductive thing on a job is constantly training people and high turnover. That is a
Oh my
major
God.
waste of company funds. So when you have senior people that are professional, do the job right and whatnot, that's a premium right there. You pay for that. You pay for that. So
So
the best
I
ones
don't
have been
disagree.
getting the shaft forever.
I don't disagree with you at all, Venkat. I had a meeting with my guys on Tuesday. Over the weekend, I wrote a letter to them, explaining, things like that. And so I realized as I'm looking at them and they're all looking back at me, there was a time where I was the youngest guy there because I came in at 23. Now I'm 44, and our youngest guy now is 18. And my whole crew on average now is like 25. Whereas back in the day, the crew ranged about 45 to 50. We had guys there that were still like 70 working there because it's one of those places that when you work there, you're just there because it's like a skilled thing that we do. And I'm just looking at my crew now, and there are all these young pups just looking at me. And I'm like, damn, I said, am I the old man now? Like, I'm the old football coach trying to rile these guys up. And you're right. When you have young guys that don't have work experience, it is hard as hell to get these guys to come to work on time, to get like we're paying them more money. These guys still come to work late. They get off of breaks late. And then me, the old man, the old grumpy veteran, I got to be the one to go in here and be like, hey, man, I'm going to send your ass home. Or, you know what I mean? And then, God forbid, you talk to them, with a little bit of bass in their voice, and they crawl up in the corner and they go like they shut down and they don't want to do any work. And Trevor's being mean to me. And oh my God, bro! Like it's oh Jesus, it's crazy. It's
Our
crazy.
parents,
I don't know what the hell. Ugh.
but yeah, I was like the turnover
Yeah.
rate is high. Only that they're giving us the bonuses during the. Lest we forget that as well, folks. They were giving us these $2,000 bonuses. It didn't do a diddly squat. Because again, at the end of the day, somebody will be like, I'm just gonna sign up and work for like 3 weeks and then I'll quit and find another job that's gonna sign me up for $2,000 bonus again. So that's this is like one of those things where I feel like in this state, because I don't know about Georgia, we'll tell you about more, but harder for me, like if we're gonna raise the minimum wage and then complain about it, saying that it's gonna kill those people that are gonna be in the McDonald's jobs and whatnot. It really didn't. It says a lot. Like, why are we still at $15 an hour in? Like, remember it was wasn't it 714 Vancat at one point?
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Them bonuses going
That's
around
crazy.
after COVID.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. Why do we feel as though
years? That's crazy though. Like nobody
why do
complained
we
about
feel as though that we got to be loyal to a company? What the hell with your company? I'm going where the money at.
Yeah, exactly. MD, you remember the company Yellow? You remember Yellow? You remember Yellow
Yeah, I
Freight,
remember
right?
Yellow. Yeah.
I'm talking like they've been out of business for 20 years. They just went out of business last year. But Yellow Freight was offering $7,500 sign-in bonuses because they couldn't find drivers.
Yeah. But that's
$7,500
common in the
sign-in
trucking
bonus.
business, though. That's common. I done seen trucking company give $10,000 signing bonus and pay it
I've
out in
never
like
heard of
3
that.
months. That's
I've
common.
never
Yeah.
heard of that.
But because again,
But that's crazy. That's
yeah, go
crazy.
ahead. But you got to think
No,
though.
but
Go ahead.
No, even my company was giving you like $500 signing bonuses. I'm like, whoa. I've been here all these goddamn years and y'all ain't giving me nothing like this. Y'all giving all these new people, but they were doing it because they couldn't get people to work because people was making more money staying at home. So yeah.
Yeah, you got supply and demand, man. That's the natural order of things, man. I'm sorry. That's the natural order.
I
That's
mean,
just how
I
it
don't have
works.
a problem with it if it's actually done. I think it's more pick and choose than supply and demand. They pick and choose their
Well,
moments and spots because it was never consistent throughout
the
2020.
union do the same thing.
Well, I mean, I don't think the union.
You want
The
to
union should
switch
have to.
you want to switch from an executive master to a bureaucratic master in terms of the way, because that's all the union is. You think your representation matter in the union, Venka? It don't. Not one bit. Like I said, yeah, you may get a couple extra dollars. I won't deny you that. But at the end of the day, the bureaucrats that sit at that union hall are in charge. What they say go. That's just what it is. And if you go sideways, you're gonna be shunned and ostracized within that industry. Hell, that's a bigger impact than anything that an executive on the top floor could do. So go to places like New York, New Jersey. You can literally be excommunicated from the entire industry messing around with the union. That's a whole fact. Mr. Moneybags in the penthouse can't do that. He ain't got the power to do that. The union got the power to do that. So the hell with him is what I say.
What do you guys think would be a fair minimum wage? Like just, and I know you got to do it state by state because $20 in Florida is not $20 in New York. So I get it. But what do you think would be a fair minimum wage? Because I honestly I didn't know the minimum wage was $7.14. That's insane. That's insane.
The minimum wage needs to be $20 an hour.
Exactly.
So you say 20 would be fair.
Yeah, to start at 20. You gotta.
But then don't you think niggas would still complain?
It doesn't matter if they could complain. That's what I'm saying. That's a human nature thing.
Yeah.
So the world don't stop because some niggas gonna complain. Like whatever they need to fail and go through that route if that's what they choose. But I'm saying that the people that are born and living should be able to have the opportunity to fail or succeed. They should not lose that right because some dumbass people on the side doesn't respond or handle it properly. That's all I'm always looking for is just that freedom and that opportunity to be able to do things. Once you undervalue me, cut me down on my knees financially, that's a problem because do we really feel that it's cool that a lot of people or have to shack up together just to make it through with the rents and stuff like that? You got a bunch of husbands and wives that are sticking together. They hate their guts. They live in different, but because of the way they run. Do you believe like you should be graduating out of high school, graduating out of college, and then you got to go right back to mom's basement to live? Because there's a lot of people living like that. You should be able, your income that you make should at the very least be able to self-sustain you individually without a girlfriend, without a wife, without a partner, without an uncle, a brother, a cousin, or whatever. It should just be you. This is my apartment. I pay for it. This is my car. I pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Like you should be able to have that minimum. And a lot of the jobs out here doesn't even cover half of the minimum. That's my problem with it.
Venkat, I don't disagree at all. When I had my meeting with the guys Tuesday, the last thing I told them, and they started laughing, I said, I want to see you guys make as much money as you humanly possibly can in this company. Why? Because the more money you make, the less likely you are to try to rob me. And that's just how it is. It bothers me when I get up and leave my house 5 o'clock every morning and I drive a half a mile down the street and I'm being bombarded by 6 or 7 guys asking me for money. That shit hurts my heart in this country of all places. So I get it. I'm not, listen, me and you, hey, what people gonna understand, a lot of this between me and you is for the show. But I agree. People shouldn't, no human being, not even in third world countries, I guess, but no human being should be able to, are grown up with kids. You shouldn't tell them that they got to work for $10 an hour or, something like that. My only thing, and this has always been my thing, that I think the work ethic in this country is not good. But I blame the school system too, because they never taught us how to be adults. We kind of learned it on the fly. But the work ethic is terrible. And the more money we're going to give you, you got to come up to it. Like, you got to come up to the plate. But I get it, man. When you said that people are staying together because they need a place to stay. Yeah, that's why during COVID, the divorce rate was so high, because people realized they didn't really like their spouse. So they was like, man, the hell with that shit. I got to be around this bitch the whole time. I'm about to dip. But hey, man, I got no disagreement, man. But I'm about to get down. But before I get down, I gotta say this. We are doing part one of the Vince. Part one of Vince McMahon is the following week, because we got Bad Blood next Wednesday. But then Vince McMahon will be the following week. But this is what I gotta say. We gonna start a new hashtag, just like how Venkat mentioned the free MD20. That worked. That swept the nation. We're gonna start doing a new hashtag. Release the Strictly Real Masters. That's long. We're going to have to shorten it down. But let me just give y'all a verse. Let me give y'all a little snippet of one of my lines off of my solo debut called Step Back When the Hammer's on the Attack. See, I got a memory like an elephant. I don't forget nothing. I had a line in that song that says, I drop bows like dusty roads. That's all I got to say. Venkat, stop playing around. Find the goddamn masters. Let's get this thing going. I'm gonna put it on members only, so we can have a listening party, and y'all can roast me all you want. And that's what we're gonna do, man. Great show. I'm gonna be listening in the back. I just gotta I'm in the middle of trying to do some things. I wanted to come up and talk about the strike thing though, so I'll be listening in the back. Find the masters, Venkat. Stop playing around, man. I know you got them.
All
right, Trevor.
All right, peace.
All right.
Hey, man, the union stuff took over, man. Hey, but hey, passionate topic.
That's right.
I'll say this to end it. You know, to Trevor's point, do I look at work ethic as being a problem? I mean, it's a slippery slope. Me personally, and my ideology, I think work ethic is used to try to motivate more production, and that will go to your point, Venkat. I believe we all should understand what we need to do as a society to be better economically. Work ethic is a term that insinuates productivity in terms of how the higher ups look at it, whether that be Trevor's position or whoever. I look at that term as being overrated in the aspect of how we view what we're worth, for sure. In the aspect of a union, it's all the same. To me, from a leadership standpoint, there's no difference between corporate greed and unionization when it comes to the bureaucracy. That's just a fact. Anything that you could do in a union, you could do it individually. It ain't my fault that the people is stupid to the point where they can't have an aspect of a collective thought when it comes to what supply and demand is from an employment standpoint. You don't need no union to be that. If we all stop working today, this country is in the shitter 24 hours. That's all it'll take. We all know this. Why do I need a union to tell me that? I don't. Unions are simply there to have a transfer of power from look at it from America First. America First tell you, oh, we the people, populism, blah, blah. It ain't got nothing to do with that. Same with the union. You talk about the workers ain't got no control. The people that's in the union hall got all the control. And you ain't got no say-so in that. You can go to all the union meetings and all that you want. Your vote don't count. And now I'll say your vote don't count in that aspect, for sure. Because I've been through it. I went to the union meetings. I did all that stuff. I was the perfect guy. I loved my job at one point when I was an electrician, but I saw the politics. It was like 90s WCW all over again. I saw it. I saw how they work. So that's probably one of my personal gripes. You can say, I'm salty about it. That's cool. But I'm telling you, I know the inner workings of the union. I saw it firsthand. And that's just a fact. The hell with the union. Know who you were and know what you were.
I get you, MD. I get you. I hear you, but sometimes you get. I mean, it's like who represents you? You got lobbies that
You
represent.
represent you, Van Cat. You.
Yeah, if it was a bunch of me's or a bunch of MDs or a bunch of Ricardos, yeah, but that's not what we're dealing with. This
All right,
population.
I'm gonna ask you one last question. I'm done.
Yeah.
Within the strike right now,
Yep.
what position of pride is bigger or has more significance? The pride of the union itself or the pride in you striking? So you may have not would you they struck, right?
Yep.
You would have by obligation, by bylaws and all that of the union charter, you would have had to strike too.
Yeah.
Is your pride intact by striking at that particular time, or is it all for the union?
I guess for some it's both, but I would think the pride in striking. But let's say me as an individual say, I'm gonna strike. And if you're the only dumbass or four of you, they're just gonna fire you and then move on. That's why you have to move in bigger numbers. And that's what a union.
I'm understanding that. But I'm saying the whole longshoreman union, all of them are striking. What sets more of a precedent in terms of the significance of your individual pride, the union or yourself in the action of striking?
Right. I think I think they can see it both ways, but yeah, definitely first and foremost, it's gotta be you taking pride in striking and standing up. I think collectively everybody's just thinking the same way like that.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. That's all I want.
Okay. Ricardo, anything else on the subject?
No, other than I'm trying to see like if this is a long-term gain for these unions to be like holding out to try to, because we know it's an election cycle, they're going to try to use everything to their advantage to manipulate the situation. But I'm curious to see how is this going to be? What's the resolution going forward? Is it be done before the election? Like, how would this impact the current administration and the next administration going in? Is there implications to this? Like, so there's no endorsement from either for either side. So how does this, in fruition of things, work out for the candidates that are currently running? Is what I'm curious at this point, because it's always been Democratic leaning. So are they saying now that they're gonna, not gonna pick anyone, and then it won't influence the election, or it's just a bluff because the Democrats in some way or some aspects is gonna pull through India and the help? That's what I'm curious.
Do you think it was a setup, Ricardo?
I think it was a setup. I think it was
purposely done. MD, what do you mean by setup? What do you mean by setup?
Do you think? Because again, remember the longshoremen are a subsidiary of the entirety of the Teamster Union.
Yeah.
And what's the guy's name? Is it O'Leary?
Yep.
Yeah, he been running around. Do you think it was a setup? I mean, hey, let's put our tinfoil hats on just for a second.
It's done on purpose. I will go on record and say that.
I might have to go with you, Ricardo. I might have to go with you.
I just find the timing so conveniently done.
Well, there's an election going on, so you can get more focus on it, and it'll probably give more urgency to settle in the union's favor if you do it now. If you waited till inauguration time, I don't think it wouldn't be as big of a punch.
No, because that's January. So then it begs the question: why wait until now to create a big old hoopla when you knew damn well that we're in an inflationary year 1, 2, it's an election year 2, and it's conveniently timed because of the uprising in the rest of the world. You have the conflicts at bay all over the place. So they knew exactly what they were doing strategically. I can't blame them, but really though, and then you're gonna have the nerve to say I'm not gonna pick either candidates because it's dependent on who's gonna be in our favor to give us what we want. That's not how that works. But I digress because it's very smart play.
And it's never worked that way.
And
not from a leverage standpoint. It's never worked that way.
But that's the thing, though, MD. The leverage point of view of what they're trying to go for. At the end of the day, are you going to get the 75% that you're aiming for? I say not. You more than likely probably end up with 65, 67%. Lucky at that, I will give them that. But I think it's just a bit much just to do all of this now, knowing what we know in terms of what we're going into. So I wish them well, but I think the time is just a little bit to do to make the American people suffer at hands in terms of consumerism. I just think it's just way too conveniently timed. I'm sorry, but
I agree with you.
Well, I wish them well. I'm neither for or against unions because I'm in a unionized job myself. I just find them to be, kind of necessary in certain instances, but in other instances they're just completely, pointless because, like Venkat and I know, we live in a state where the cost of living has gone up so high that it literally bypassed California. So we technically living in South Florida. It costs more here to live here than it does to live in California. You can take that for the grain of salt for what it is, but it is true. You can't even, the rent here is high, food is high, everything else is high because everybody's coming here, but then transporting themselves, going back to work in California or New York. So how does that help the local people like myself that are like trying to like make a living and combat that? It doesn't work. So to me, again, this whole thing of like, and yes, the media is going to be biased because it's the media. It's like what I was telling little Kev. It's like they are a necessary evil for all of us because on one hand, you can take it with a grain of salt for what they're telling you, but it's up to you to interpret whatever they're giving you and not fall for the propaganda at the end of the day. But again, I digress. This just seems so conveniently timed. I'm neither for or against the unions, but I wish them well, and I say to the Democrats, be careful of how you ploy this, especially Kamala and Biden, because going forward you can't force them to go to work, and at the same time you can't tell because it's kind of like looking at it from the lens of everybody else. You can't do favoritism at the same time you can't pull back because they're always in your leaning corner. So wish them well. I don't know how they're going to solve this problem, but like
Van, we might have to follow up on this next week. Because I want to know what Trump, like, is he going to come up with a policy plan based off of this? You know what I mean?
Well, we got an example of one of his policy plans, and it was the purge.
Well, I mean, because again, it's not far-fetched to believe that maybe Trump has something to do with it. It ain't far-fetched to put Biden in a tough spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
So it ain't far-fetched. I'm just saying. So, I'll leave it at that. We this was the main event I see.
Yeah. Hey, it's a conversation that has to be had. Yep, so we'll continue with this at the upcoming days and weeks and whatnot. Right now, it's time to go in session. Time to go to lame duck session. So there we go.
First things first, in this lame duck session.
For the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready? Turn.
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
I'm tired of being quiet.
I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
comes great responsibility.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These eyes. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life. Winning is easy. Losing is never easy. Not for me, it's not.
And there it is. The first polls have closed. Counting is now well underway.
The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get.
This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
This is an extremely flammable situation, and the president just threw a match into it.
Some of the most irresponsible comments that a president of the United States has ever made. He has cast doubt on the integrity of the entire electoral process purely for his own personal advantage.
For the president to say we want all voting to stop, that's what he said. We don't want them finding ballots in the middle of the night, 4 a.m., and then counting them. That's what happens on election night.
The Trump campaign filed a lawsuit to stop the counting of ballots in Pennsylvania. That is simply wrong.
Today, the president was still out of sight, calling supporters and tweeting furiously, Twitter slapping warning labels on many of his tweets.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes.
Okay, here we are again in the unusual position of not only interrupting the President of the United States, but correcting the President of the United States. There are no illegal votes that we know of. There has been no Trump victory that we know of.
CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term.
The only glimpses we've seen of Donald Trump since Joe Biden was projected president-elect came over the weekend at his golf course. He is still not willing to accept defeat, fighting his battle in court and on Twitter.
It's important for the cause of democracy and freedom that we don't allege fraud and theft and so forth unless there's very clear evidence of that. And at this stage, that evidence hasn't been produced.
We are still yet to hear from President Trump in person. All we are getting at the moment is a series of angry tweets, many of those written in capitals. However, only recently he tweeted that actually the lamestream media, as he called it, was somehow responsible for calling this election early.
Unfortunately, he does nothing with grace or dignity or any semblance of class.
President Trump fired his defense secretary today. No lame duck president has ever done such a thing. Mark Esper and President Trump have long been at odds. The president Twitter fired him.
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right, we're ready. We must count every legal vote. We must make sure that any vote that wasn't lawful ought not be counted. That dilutes your vote.
Sir, what do you say to the Americans that are anxious over the fact that President Trump has yet to concede and what that might mean for the country?
I just think it's an embarrassment.
Yes or no, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Whoever puts their hand on the Bible on January 20th every 4 years is the winner.
Okay, but respectfully, you did not clearly answer that question. And if you can't give a yes or no on whether or not Trump lost, then how can you...
Of course he lost.
Trump lost the 2020 election.
Of course. Okay. Joe Biden's the president.
Trump is now claiming he's going to hold a news conference on Monday, he says, to release what he calls, quote, an irrefutable report that would prove his false claims of election fraud in Georgia, despite all the responsible officials in Georgia, elected officials, courts, saying there was no stolen election there. It's unclear what evidence Trump has, why it might not have been presented in any of the court cases he's filed the last couple of years, but Donald Trump's going to do what Donald Trump does. Trump's charged now with 13 counts in Atlanta, including racketeering. The indictment putting him atop a, quote, criminal organization, as the indictment says, that includes 18 aides, attorneys, and associates, and 30 unnamed co-conspirators, all, according to the indictment, allegedly co-conspiring to strong-arm Georgia into helping Trump cling to power. Trump's ex-vice president, Mike Pence, is also responding to the Georgia indictment for the first time today.
Despite what the former president and his allies have said for now more than 2.5 years, and continue to insist to this very hour, the Georgia election was not stolen, and I had no right to overturn the election on January 6th.
There's a $5 million prize for anybody that can prove the election data that I have from the 2020 election is false.
He puts this challenge out there. He says that it would have to be arbitrated, and you take it all the way to the finish line. What's your reaction today when you find out you've been awarded $5 million from Mike Lindell?
I think it was relief, not because I doubted my own findings. In fact, I never expected to be able to show that it was bogus data, because normally data analysis could take weeks or months, and I had 3 days. But the data was so obviously fake that I spent a few hours before I could show it was fake. And more than the money, I really wanted the public to know what was going on.
Donald Trump has finally admitted that he did, in fact, lose the 2020 race.
And lost by a whisker.
Lost by a whisker. We should note, of course, that Donald Trump's lies about the 2020 election fueled the January 6th attack on the Capitol, as well as multiple state and federal indictments.
Donald Trump is seemingly acknowledging his loss in the 2020 presidential election.
There are consequences for being an idiot, and nothing makes that clearer than conservative activist and election denier Joe Altman, who has been ordered to pay a former Dominion Voting Systems employee $1,000 a day until he can actually provide evidence for the defamatory claims that he's been making. As a far-right election denier, he claimed that he had personal knowledge that the 2020 presidential election was rigged. According to local news station KNUS, in November of 2020, he claimed to have heard an Antifa conference call where an employee of the Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems suggested the election was rigged in favor of Joe Biden. So that was his big get. That's what he's alleging here. He's also a podcaster who repeatedly advocated for political violence. He was also incredibly extreme in some of the stuff he had to say. So extreme, in fact, that even his co-host couldn't get on board with what he was saying.
I don't want to hang anybody as a liberal. I want to hang anyone as a traitor. That's who I want to hang. You still could find enough traitors in this nation to stand together on the radical left that you could probably build a gallows from New York City or from Washington, D.C. all the way to California. You probably could do that. Simultaneous, like dominoes, right? Just
one chair kicks the next one over.
Yeah, one chair knocks the other one over. And we just have a line of executions of traitors to the United States of America. Look, if you guys don't think that's funny, I think it's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, it makes me incredibly nervous.
So that's who we're dealing with here.
The election denier, ordered by a judge to pay $1,000 a day until he complies with a court order to provide proof of his claims, is now saying he won't pay it. But podcaster Joe Altman also suggested that he's likely to be asking his supporters for financial help.
They said we're going to find you in contempt.
Joe Altman does a lot of talking, mixing calls for executions of his political opponents with predictions of coming political violence.
I want to send the media to the gallows, the mainstream media to the gallows, radical leftists to the gallows, traitors to our nation to the gallows, and they all kind of fit in the same bucket.
And now the conservative podcaster from Douglas County has been told to put his money where his mouth is, ordered by a judge in Colorado to provide proof of his election rigging claims or pay $1,000 a day to the Coloradan that he accused of fixing the 2020 election. That would be Eric Coomer from Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems.
And I'll be damned if I'm going to write a check to that piece of
This week on his podcast, Altman suggested he would defy the court order, but also said he might hit his listeners up for money.
Probably put out something that asks for your support.
Altman, a longtime business owner in Dougco, has bragged about his supposed wealth, but now his tone has changed.
We'll figure it out. Everything that I have is in my retirement, so it's should be easy. I've worked my entire life and literally have to walk away having nothing because of these pieces of trash.
Oltman's conspiracy theory that Dominion worked with Antifa to rig the election made it all the way up to Donald Trump, where it was repeated. But Oltman refused to provide proof, going so far as to walk out of a deposition in Denver to avoid questions, hence the contempt of court order, the daily fine, and this comment that he made about judges this week.
But did you know that judges actually remove their names and information from anywhere? That they can literally hide their addresses as if they don't exist. Scrubbed.
Oltman closed his program with another prediction of coming violence.
And November is going to be the start of something very, 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 very kinetic. Now, do I want that to happen? No, I don't. But I don't want my children to be groomed either. I don't want perverts and Satanists to be the one that gets the last word.
All right. There he goes. There he is. Put the spotlight on this lard bucket of trash. Joe Altman, trash bag human of the week, number 58 variety. MD, what do you think about Joe Altman paying $1,000 a day because he won't deny, he keeps denying the election was stolen from Donald Trump?
Yeah. I didn't know about this particular story. I saw, you did it nice. You did like a retrospect almost in the beginning, and then transition to him. Yeah. Give him the InfoWar treatment. That's what I say. Just go ahead, give him these MAGA maniacs. They gonna have to learn that you just can't go around defaming people's character. You can't do it. You know what I mean? But they want the ability to do it. That's why a person like J.D. Vance brought up the whole situation with censorship last night. This is why. Because they feel as though they have a right to disseminate misinformation, disinformation. Because they know that the majority of MAGA maniacs are simply dumb as hell. And they go for stuff like that. Because it makes them feel better. It's confirmation bias. That's just what it is. It's a collective sense of confirmation bias to the point where they will go so extreme as to, like this gentleman did. That's just a fact. Now that's the one thing that I can honestly say. Democrats simply, like, they don't do it. Why do they feel the need to lie about a particular aspect of how they view society and think that's just good enough in order to make sure that their voice get heard? I don't know why. And they use the World Wide Web as a vehicle to do it, and now believe that some type of way that's it, social media is an extension of the government. Like where does that even come from? So again, it'll be another situation like the InfoWars guy. It'll be another situation like Rudy, where they'll try to basically stave having to pay any money and then get all this stuff took away. And I say, so be it. And I think it needs to be extended further on a lot of these social media sites. I don't give a damn where you at. If you go onto a privately owned social media site, whether it be X with Elon or Rumble, wherever you MAGA maniacs go, right? If you defame the character of another person, you should be held duly responsible. That's just a fact. Just because it's said on a quote-unquote public forum don't mean that shields you from any liability. So I say take every damn thing you own. That's what I say. What was that? Just last week, it was announced that the government about to go ahead and come on in to InfoWars and take that stuff. So InfoWars will be gone pretty soon. So, hey, it is what it is. You should have said what you're saying. Did nobody make you say that? But you felt the need to say it because that's what drives a lot of your audience. They need to hear stuff like that, confirmation bias, in order to make them feel at ease of whatever the situation may be. Just the dumbassery of it all. So, hey, yeah, that's what it is. Mama always said, don't put your hand on the stove. If you put it, hey, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Your ass is grass. About it, this is what it is. So I say good riddance to it. Like I said, I know nothing of your show anyway. So it don't make me know, never mind. But I feel sorry for your fan base.
I mean, his talk was changed dramatically. He went from I'm not gonna stop, I'm not backing down to I need people to donate. I only have a 401k and that's pretty much all I got. I mean, the whole speech just changed. That vibe went south quick. Oh
Sucks
man.
to be you. Sucks to be you, I guess.
I don't understand how an individual, I don't care about your politics or anything. I don't even care if it was a family member. I'm not paying $1,000 a day to bolster a lie. That is weird. Like, you really that invested in this guy that you ready to go to prison? You ready to take a hit financially and physically for Donald Trump? Oh my God, that is ridiculous.
That's what
Not
it is.
Gandhi, not Martin Luther the King, not Jesus. We doing it for Donald Trump? My God. Ricardo, what do you think about this trash bag steaming pile of garbage, Joe Altman?
Well, I got to cue the swan song here because how the video brought a bunch of stuff in regards to the stealing of and all of that stuff, and 6, and then you got into this dude, and he is like, the chest all like being like fervently, I wouldn't, these people and all this stuff. It's amazing how they have so much talking points. These so-called, I don't even know what to call them anymore. They're just as bad as the influencers, because that word is so annoying to me now. Everybody's an influencer. These people that claim to say they're conservative and they're this and they're that, usually the ones that are preaching, notice again, they love to preach violence. Oh, this is what's going to happen on November to something, an election day. And what do you know? Because a lot of y'all preach violence, and I feel like y'all want to have violence. Like, no one has time or patience for that. What we want to know is who got to the 271 mark, and we call the election immediately. And again, it goes by the Electoral College, which I feel like, again, we have to bring up civics, because a lot of times people don't even know what that is anymore. It's just like this dude has completely warped our brain in terms of the garbage and diatribe he spews, and these people believe the crap. But I digress again. Civics is so fundamental to the U.S. Democracy that I implore everyone, please teach your kids or let them know, don't skip civics class, because this is what will happen when y'all don't know crap. You have this moron, Agent Orange 45, who then spews everything goes on. But let's bring it back home to this dude. Dude, you can't be then saying, I'm going to be doing this and da-da-da. Joe, what are you doing? Like, you're going to then do all of that to then turn around and say, I have all my savings saved up, and right now, I might have to go and ask some of my viewers, just out of the playbook from Donald Trump, for some funding to help with this case. Notice he didn't even go into that rhetoric, but he slowly intimated at it. Dude, what are you doing? You literally said that there was such and such that happened during the election, and they proved you wrong, and then you still double down, and then now the judge steps into play and says, "Hey, you're going to be paying $1,000 a day." You're going to turn around and say, "No, I'm not going to do that," just like how Giuliani said it, and then they mandate the damn thing, and then now you're like, "Oh, but probably they're going to cancel my show." You damn right they're going to cancel your show. You have to follow by the laws of the law. You are not above the law. You ain't a king. You're just a regular, schmegular, usual moron that's like talking, I guess you could say, political tidbit points to try to get viewership. Anybody could do that. Any moron could go on the YouTube and say, "Hey, but I do this. I'm a conspiracy theorist and I'm a megalomaniac," and immediately the viewership goes up. Anybody could do it. But at the end of the day, you can't be preaching lies, my dear friend Joe, and then be called out about it. And then you're now going to go, "Oh, but woe is me. Please feel sorry for me. But damn it, man. These idiot, on the other side, screw them." And did it. No, it doesn't work. Like the rhetoric, at this point, when I tell you some of, I can't even speak because I can't generalize. Most of us Americans are sick and tired of the thing. When I tell you once November 5th hits, I'm hoping that we find out that it's 270 points for whosoever gets it, and we call it a day. To drag out this whole thing again and then have these conspiracy theorists and all of them come up with a whole bunch of crap out of their hats from out of nowhere, it doesn't help us, and we're sick and tired of it. We're sick and tired of the low-hanging fruits, the same foolishness over and over again. And for the low-hanging fruits that are sitting there, literally soaking all of this in like a sponge and not doing their due diligence of doing research. That's where, we consistently say the same thing over and over again. It's up to you to know what you're voting for and stop listening to these maniacs that are just complicit in their foolishness. Like, it's getting tiring now, people. Now is the time for y'all to do your due diligence, just like when your teacher used to send you to go do an essay. You don't plagiarize the essay. You find out who, what, when, where, and why, and you tell them where you got your sources from. You can't just be making up make-believe things and then say, like, for instance, the sky is now pink and orange and yellow and brown, and the sky is blue. Looking at the sky, it's blue. If somebody comes to you and tell you the sky is yellow, obviously they are either on Mars or they just don't have no damn sense. I digress. But Joe, you really deserve the 58th spot for, name duck of the day, week, month, year. I mean, Donald Trump will always have the covenant spot for it, but you really placed yourself on this moniker, Chris. Lord, we don't feel sorry for you. I've never heard of him up until this moment. I don't listen to his show. I don't give a rat's ass about him, but kudos to you for looking like a complete moron and idiot that you are. And I hope the judge double down on you again and make sure you pay restitution to that person that you literally, faulted for, with all the stuff that you said on your show. Everybody wants to be this, person of the whatever, and then now when the shades the fan, they're like, "Well, we feel sorry for me." No, we don't feel sorry for you, dude. You're a nobody. But I digress. Sorry, Joe, you're a loser.
You know what I don't understand is, like, January 6th happened, and they tried to overthrow the government
Oh
by
no,
force.
it didn't happen.
And
Alternative universe.
yeah, and now it's a few years removed from that event. And these bastards not only try to repurpose the truth about what happened that day, but then they even go as far as threats, saying if something don't go the way I want it to, something's gonna happen. Like, he literally gave threats to the judge of his case. Like, he's gonna physically harm him, or somebody that he knows is gonna harm him. And it's like, what the hell is that, man? Like, this guy 100% is a trash bag human being. And you could tell when they talk, they say it in their chest in the beginning, and then when reality hits, they start deflating talk and sounding very, very weak. and they ain't got no nuts. So he could go straight to hell. And he is the number 58 lame duck trash bag human of the week. Weak as in weakling and not the weak. Oh, man. So we're about to wrap up this show. So we're going to do the final sign off. So we'll start off with MD. MD, what's your final sign off, sir?
Yes, sir. Great show as always. On your points tonight. I'm glad that we spent an adequate amount of time on the union thing. I think it's important that we have these type of discussions so we can make sure that we have the correct information, when it pertains to these type of topics. Again, the way I feel about unions is not indicative to how I feel about workers' rights. Just put it that way. I want to be perfectly clear on that because I do believe in striking. I think that's important. I just don't think we need a union to do that. Shout out to everybody. Go Falcons tomorrow, Thursday. So, hey, I'm not going to announce anything I'm doing because I didn't got the time. I'm still driving like literally right now. So, I ain't no sense to me. I'm not going to do that no more. Besides, the Falcons play tomorrow anyway. They play the Yucks. So, there's that. I wasn't going to do nothing anyway. And I guess I'll see y'all next Tuesday. TFP, then next Wednesday, Bad Blood review. I'll be in the building for Bad Blood. It looked like it's going to be a good show. So
that's this Saturday, Bad Blood?
Yeah, this Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, and it starts at 6 p.m., so that's good for me because I work on Saturdays now, so I can't catch the 1 p.m. shows, but I can catch the 6 o'clock ones.
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
looking
Only
forward to
5
it.
matches. I'm reluctant to say anything about what I feel about that now because, like I said, I don't know what's going to be in the show. So I'll wait till Wednesday and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, knowing that it's called Bad Blood, do we dare see some blood in these matches? We really don't get it.
I mean, yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
according to CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, it's supposed to be blood.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to Ricardo. Ricardo, final sign off, sir.
Yeah, great show. Yeah, I think that whole strike with the ports is gonna really do a number going into the elections. Again, conveniently timed because I don't know why all of a sudden now it's an issue when it could have been given the opportunity to do this way ahead of time before the election kicks in on the 5th. But I digress. I wish them well. Again, workers' rights always are important. We don't want to go back to how it was when there was terrible conditions that workers had to go through and be fired on spot and all that stuff. So in a way, again, I'm not always all the way for unions, but when they do come in handy to help, I hope they are of great assistance because, like I always tell people, when it comes to people money, I don't play around with people's money. Like that's the one thing I don't like. When somebody can say something and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna get so and so fired." Like, don't play with people's money like that. You know what I'm saying? Let that person do what they need to do and let them implicate themselves. But I digress. A lot of stuff going on this week. Like MD and I've been saying, Iran did attack, and now waiting to see what the results going to be going forward from Israel. Can't be a bully and then all of a sudden back everybody in a corner and then know that you have the US in your corner at the very end and then see go, oh hey, see, I can do whatever I want. That's not gonna work. The game of brinksmanship is very funny. The enemy of my enemy is my best friend. So we'll see how this works in that region. A lot's gonna be happening between now and November the 5th, so I expect TFP to be really very heightened going forward. I wish everybody well. Do take the time to know your local issues. If you're in Florida, vote on, is it vote down 29 or vote 29, whatever it is. The whole thing is about marijuana, and I'm not quite sure why it's spooking everybody, but it's been around a while. So I don't
Hold on,
know.
wait a minute, Ricardo. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Women's reproductive rights is at stake in Florida, and you worry about some weed.
Vote for 4.
They put it
4.
we have
Number
to
4.
so out of
Yes,
Is
yes
that
on 4.
the vote? Is that the vote for which one is the abortion vote?
The abortion vote is the 4.
the four.
Okay.
Vote yes on 4.
So that's
Okay.
on the weed issue. So I don't know.
Hell, at least y'all got to vote.
But you're state, sir. So that's where there's a whole lot riding on Georgia as well as North Carolina, and they both were affected by what is the hurricane called? Helene, I think. So
Helene, yeah, man, yeah, they got devastated. Hey, bro, I'm telling you, and I don't know what it is about Atlanta. Every time a storm comes and it comes to Atlanta, bro, it always go to the left or right. We the city of God, bro. We the city of God. That hurricane was supposed to directly hit Atlanta, direct hit, and it went to the east. You know, unfortunately, like Asheville, North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, they got devastated.
Yes, they did.
Devastated.
You know, it's wild, man. Like, and then they did ask a question for the VP candidates, like, is global warming the thing that, how are you going to curtail that? And it's here. So all those people, the best of luck right now. Like, it's not even a fun thing to go through a natural disaster. Let's hope it's not politicized, because the whole onus is to try to assist these people as much as we can. It always happens that during an election cycle, there's something that happens either with tornadoes, whether it be fires from California. Now it's hurricanes. So, best of luck. Hopefully those people will be able to vote, because it's pivotal. It's a swing states those that got affected. And I'm
well, Ricardo, Trump said that Brian Kemp tried to call Biden, but he wouldn't pick up the phone, even though they had talked the day before.
Damn lie. And it was recorded on every TV station that he spoke to Biden the day before.
Yeah, he spoke to him already.
And
but you want me to believe Biden blocked Governor Kemp? He blocked it on the phone. That's crazy.
Well, Trump blocked aid to Puerto Rico.
Yes, he did, and through
over 20 million.
Hey, there you go.
And
that's
they
crazy,
tell a Magamaniac that they don't even know anything happened in Puerto Rico.
Oh, man.
Part of the U.S. That's the other issue. But yeah, I mean, it all in all, it's good. It's gonna be a lot. Like, heading into the election is just it's just craziness after craziness. What I'm hoping for, fingers crossed, is that it's a smooth transition. We find out the night of. I know that's wishful thinking, but let's hope she gets to 270, or whosoever gets to 270, get to it that night, so we don't have the electoral college. Because that's a whole MD. You already know. I sent you guys a video in the chat of how this could work out, because they really want to stall us out. You know who and the rest. They're going to really try to stall us out. If they could prolong it, they would, for the whole electoral college ballots to come in.
Well, yeah, they already prolonging it. The Georgia Election Board came out today and said it's going to take upwards of a week.
Oh, God.
Because they hand counting in Georgia.
Yes, they do.
So they said it's going to take about a week. They already letting you know, like, yeah, we're stretching it out.
And they're going to thoroughly look through every single one of them, correct? Because this is the whole thing.
Right.
Going to be zeroed in. So
and the thing that they put in now, it says, like, all you got to have is literally circumstantial, like, basically, like, if the cop smell weed in the car, he can search it. That's how they gonna do this election in Georgia. Even if they think it ain't got to be true, even if they think it's a mumbo jumbo, they can stop the count and go through an investigation. Hey, it's gonna be a long ride.
That's crazy, man.
It is crazy. So,
and they changed the rules a month before the election.
Of
That's
course.
some bullcrap, man.
It's a red state. What did you expect? So I all in all, let's just keep fingers crossed. At the end of the day, we still keep faith. Most of us are constitutionalists. We do believe in country first before nonsense. So let's hope, true, like the previous election before, remember how it looked dire, and people turned out and said they were going to vote one way and they end up voting the opposite way, and Joe ended up winning. So I'm hoping the same thing will be the result this time. And y'all just need to vote on the most critical issues that affect you locally. And, yes, the major thing is the presidential election, but the local issues of voting for like the judges and all of that matters the most, because that's where you can make changes. And I'll leave it up to that. So great show, guys, and look forward to TFP for next week.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. I think next week I'd like to look into Donald Trump and his MO of denying losing. Frontline did they do many great documentaries. And by the way, Frontline just dropped on PBS the latest choice, 2024 choice. Every election year, they give out a choice, and those documentaries are great. And this year they're doing a choice for the vice presidents as well. So they just give you their whole life story, backstory, and it just ties in with leading up to the election. Those are some great documentaries. You get a lot of information, and the way they film it and do it, they give you a lot of insight, audio, video, still images. It's nicely done and put together, so you can appreciate that. So anybody trying to get caught up on what is what, check out PBS's Frontline. They're great. They always do great work.
Cool.
So next week we're gonna check out Trump line. We're gonna check out Trump making excuses for losing as usual. We'll be back next week. I'd like to thank everyone for being in the chat, supporting the channel, supporting the show. Peace to Trevor for coming up on the panel, and his never-ending grassroots movement. Release the masters. Release the masters. Oh man! So we'll see everybody next week. We have not Wrestling Reality next week. Trevor has Bible shows on Thursdays. The MMA Brothers, I believe, has a show on the 6th. Yep. It's a UFC show. So check out all those shows. There was something else that I wanted to touch base. I can't remember what it is. So
we'll him complaining about the Dolphins losing.
Got that show too. Yeah, perfect. Right. Yeah, I wanted a suggestion for Trevor. So I had suggested to Trevor to put on the ticker. Put a ticker on that Dolphins show of all the games that played that day. Yeah, I get it. That could be labor intensive, especially when you're just trying to say what you got to say. But at least put the Dolphins game ticker. San Francisco 32, Miami 48. Whatever. Put that on the bottom. Let that roll.
Wish they
at
could
least.
score 48.
Huh?
They wish they could score 48.
They ain't gonna make it 48 soon.
Yeah, because sometimes I tune in there. I don't see the game, but sometimes I don't even know who won or lost. So it would be good if he could just put that ticker on the bottom, just showing the team the Dolphins played and the amount of points scored between both teams. I think that at least should be there. At least that. Maybe not the whole NFL, but at least the Dolphin game. All right, so peace to everybody else on the panel. The world's most dangerous panel. We got MD20. We got Ricardo, the uppity Negro. Always peace to old DB, Mike, and our DEI hire, Jeremy. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Good night.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Peace.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.